the CEO of the Global Startup Ecosystem, GSC. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much, Lucy. So we're going to kick off. I know people are still on their way, but I want to make sure you guys get started on a lovely, lovely, lovely Tuesday. So with that said, I want to do a quick housekeeping details, just because I know you guys are going to be sharing updates with your experience here for the Afro Future Summit. So Wi-Fi, okay? Network name is J Conference, and the password is welcome to 109, all lowercase. The password is welcome to 109. If you forgot that, if you go outside the door right in front of the teddy bear, it's also right there as well. You can take a screenshot picture of that Wi-Fi password information. Sounds good?
Great.
And make sure everyone sounds good? All right. Second housekeeping detail regarding the restrooms. When you exit out here, right around the corner, right before the coffee stand, that's where the restrooms are for both men and female, okay? So feel free to use the restrooms where needed. And now we're going to kick off, all right? So as shared before, welcome to Afro Future Summit 2023, the third annual edition. Really excited to welcome all of you to today's session. Obviously, we're going to have a series of panels and keynotes and various conversations throughout the day. Please, if you could, outside the door, you could get right there, right under the teddy bear, all right? So today we're going to have a series of different topics of discussion for today's session. Of course, feel free that after each panel, we have a time for probably 1 or 2 questions, but obviously at the end of the day, we'll have a big networking session for about 45 minutes for you to gather and engage with all the speakers for the series for today. So first and foremost, I just want to kick off and give you a brief background on global startup ecosystem and the work that we do here at Afro Future Summit, and introduce you to also the lineup for the day. Mic check, can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, go.
Mic check. All right. I can go without mic. Everyone can hear me loud and clear?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, so just a little brief about Global Startup Ecosystem. So we are a tech ecosystem company. We have been really, over the past couple of years, our mission is to accelerate people for the digital age. How do we do that? We're a capacity community building organization. So we obviously run accelerator programs and training sessions to upscale people for the digital age, but we're also the brand behind many of the iconic tech summits that you've probably seen across emerging markets. So whether you've seen Haiti Tech Summit, Ghana Tech Summit, Nigeria Tech Summit, series like this one, Afro Future Summit, is all under the GSC mandate. Currently, we have about 60 live brands currently circulating across the world over the past 7 years. And as we announce new countries in the lineup, people get those announcements about being a part of the community. So if you go to globalstartupecosystem.com, you can join the community for free and get access to these notifications regarding these programs, okay? So with that said, our 3 pillars of engagement is centered around training around employment, education, and entrepreneurship. So a lot of our topics of discussion are centered around those 3 core pillars. Previous speakers in the lineup, we've dealt with, you've seen GSC programs, we've had heads of states, prime ministers, presidents, celebrities, billionaires, influencers, all the way from the highest level, but we also have grassroots organizers, people who are behind the scenes, making things happen around the world, all across from Haiti to Ghana, Nigeria. If you've seen it online, you've seen it through our programs. So really proud of the speaker lineup that we've had in the past within the network. Obviously, for Afro Future Summit, you're here, you're part of one of the newest mandates that we have. During the pandemic, if you remember 2020, everyone went virtual, right? The whole world just changed. And at that time, we kicked off a 10-year initiative to gather people of color from across the United States and around the world. How are we preparing Black people and people of color for what's next, what's in the future? I know we talk a lot about Black history, about what we've done in the past, all the accomplishments that people within our communities have done, but what are we doing to advance technology? What are we doing to advance communities of color? And that's when we initiated that program in 2020 with our inaugural edition. So in the past couple years, this is now, again, our 3rd edition. 2021, when we kicked off, it was a virtual program, one day. 2nd edition, and last year, 2022, was a hybrid edition. And now we're here, finally, post-pandemic, with our first live edition of the Afro Future Summit program. So a round of applause for you to be a part of this. And as shared before, over the past 3 years now, we've had probably close to 100 100 speakers be a part of the program. About 25 will be interacting with today alone. And those speakers have come from numerous organizations across the Fortune 500 and government sector, from PayPal to Google to Forbes, all across different networks we've been in. So with that said, I also want to share that, with GST, our mandate, because we're trying to reach so many people around the world, if you notice, a lot of our programs are free, and we do that purposely. So anytime we have VIP sponsors and partners are able to contribute to our program, we do our best to make sure to acknowledge their contribution, because if you're in this room and you have the capacity to come here, these are the individuals that made it happen. So please, if you're a VIP in the room, can you please stand up? Speakers and sponsors and exhibitors, can you please stand up so we just acknowledge you in the room? Please, can we give them a round of applause? All VIPs, exhibitors, sponsors, yes. Thank you so much. And you'll be hearing from them throughout the day as well, but we just want to give some acknowledgement because, again, you are the driving forces making this content and these programs accessible to as many people as possible across our community. Okay? So we're going to give you a little bit about GSC and our impact, about the work that we do around the world, and of course some of the places that we've hosted these summits across our offices at Forbes, SAP, and LinkedIn. And so just in terms of the Afro Future Summit series, I shared with you that we kicked this off in 2020, and the growth of the programs that we've done over the past couple years. How many of you have been a part of the Afro Future Summit Awards Gala that took place at Forbes in February during Black History Month? How many of you guys were a part of that? Welcome back. So that one was a very iconic program at Forbes, on Fifth Avenue, gathering some of the key innovators in the space to celebrate their achievements and the work that they're doing around the ecosystem. So with that said, ways to get involved is join on globalstartupecosystem.com, be a part of the community, and get updates on more programs that we're doing on a consistent basis. And please again to welcome all of you to Afro Future Summit 2023, 3rd edition. Thank you all for coming. So with that said, I know we have people are kind of trickling in. Just feel free to grab a seat and get situated. I'm going to pass it over now to our first speaker to kick off the moderation, which is James Baru. Please give him a warm welcome as he welcomes the first panel to the session.
Good morning, almost afternoon. I'm Jim Baru. I'd like to bring up the panel. Amy, John. Awesome. Okay, so we have a half hour, so there's a lot of information we want to get across. Oh, come on. Come on. Right here. See, I don't want to. I'm the moderator. Okay. It's perfectly fine. Or I'll get behind you. It's okay. It's okay. Thanks for being here. All right, so we have a lot of ground to cover. Everyone's going to be on corporate innovation. Got some great experts here for you. Again, my name is Jim Baru. I've been ecosystem builder leader in the New York ecosystem for 25 years. So people like these are superstars, and I love sort of moderating panels with them. We get so much information so quickly. And so that's what we're going to try to do today. Okay, so I'm going to start with Kirjan and have him just tell us who he is. And he's going to talk about local innovation real quick. And then each of the rest of the folks are going to talk about success stories. So go ahead.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me okay. Yeah. My voice is pretty loud. All right, so I'm actually ex-Microsoft. So I was at Microsoft for many, many years, certainly more than 10 years. And I got hired from South Africa, which is my home country, which is incidentally where I live right now. And the thing that I want to comment on is that corporate innovation from a Microsoft point of view was super critical in terms of my journey and in my career. We often, especially today's business climate, we tend to place a lot of emphasis on the role of entrepreneurship, which is absolutely critical and absolutely necessary and must absolutely be driven. But I think what's sometimes not always visible is that to get into that entrepreneurship band and to be able to be productive and to be able to succeed as an entrepreneur, to have the networks, to have the support, to have the infrastructure, when you come from perhaps a background that is not as ordinary, it's quite hard to take that leap directly into entrepreneurship, especially without the networks and without the infrastructure. So for me, the beautiful middle ground, or the thing that really gave me a springboard to be able to become an entrepreneur and be here speaking to you today, was my my time at Microsoft, which I saw as an opportunity for a huge amount of corporate innovation that really not just taught me some of the skills that I have when it comes to innovation, but also gave me the networks, the infrastructure, the backbone, the credibility. Suddenly, I was rubbing shoulders with the right people, even though my background didn't quite match up to that. Do you see what I'm saying? So corporate innovation for me was a critical stepping stone to the world of entrepreneurship, and to me being able to do bigger things later on.
Thank you so much. And of course, we just saw a masterclass in corporate innovation and investing from Microsoft when they invested in OpenAI, and the rest is almost history. So let's move to Inky. Why don't you tell us who you are, and tell us what corporate innovation actually means to you, briefly.
Hi everyone, I'm Inky. I'm one of the principals on the Salesforce Ventures Impact Fund. So one way that we do corporate innovation is Salesforce launched a venture fund back in 2009. We do equity investments in, at this point, I think over 400 startups, but really focused on software and enterprise software companies. The fund I work on is a little bit different. We still look at enterprise software, but really focus on ones that have both a social and environmental mission. So look across education and workforce development, sustainability, financial inclusion, and digital health. So that's one way we do corporate innovation is through our venture fund. And the early stages of our fund was really focused on building out the Salesforce ecosystem. So investing in companies that were building on Salesforce or partnering with Salesforce. At this point, that has expanded as our ecosystem expanded, and we're definitely much more just opportunistic investors. But we also have lots of ways that we partner with our companies and introduce them to customers or connect them with product teams, et cetera, so that our products and our teams internally are really learning and working together with these startups. We also have a number of ways that we partner with companies that aren't necessarily fit for venture through our app exchange program. So it's bringing them into that ecosystem and leveraging the resources that Salesforce has to kind of go into that partnership and really support and build more companies.
Wonderful, thank you. Crystal?
Yeah, so I'm not as fancy as they are. I am the CEO and founder of Ruby Love. I'm best known as being the Black woman who scaled a $80 million femtech company. It's not fancy. It's not fancy at all. And as far as like innovation, mine didn't really I realized in the last 3 years that what I did was innovative, but when I first started, I really was just an entrepreneur at heart. I didn't know where to go, for Salesforce Ventures or anything like that, and I just built my company from a need, and that is the difference of what I did.
Wonderful, thank you. Trevon?
Hello, my name is Trevon Kogu. Everyone calls me Drake. I'm currently the Vice President of Growth at Fortune. Most people know it's Fortune magazine or the Fortune 500. My success, story, if you will, for innovation is my role, just generally, right? If you think of Fortune, it's a 93-year-old, if you listen to my CEO, startup. But it's a legacy company that has a really strong brand, but like most companies, is really trying to find their way in terms of digital transformation. And even throughout my time being there, I've seen the company go through so many different iterations, trying to understand what that looks like, whether it's print first, whether it's digital first, paywall, understanding what that looks like in between. And I think that's the true definition of innovation, and taking something that's kind of static and already there and figuring out a way how to translate it for the future.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, so as you can see, brilliant panel. We're going to have a chance to ask questions later, but if not afterwards, you can come up to me and ask questions. So Christian, at Microsoft, how has that company helped Black entrepreneurs access and partner with that organization?
I mean, that's an interesting one because I obviously come from a different, I've spent a ton of time in the US, but I've come from Microsoft's first ever recruit program, single global recruit program that they did in the, well, I won't go there because then I'm going to give away my age. I was just told how young I look today. I just want to keep that going for a bit, even if it's all in my head. The thing that Microsoft did was Microsoft hired about 22 people from all around the world, and it was an effort to bring in a different type of, a different skill set, a different look, a different way of doing things into the organization. And of that, 2 people were hired from Africa, and I was one of them, right? So it was a super cool experience. Can you picture this? Many, many, many years ago, huh? We were all pulled together, a whole bunch of us, 22 young people pulled together, and we were given amazing training all around the world. And I grew up, factually, no lie, I grew up in apartheid South Africa, right? So a good part of my life was legally, I didn't have the rights that most people had, right? And this is an actual story, this is not an embellishment. And we're not talking about a small part of my life, like a large part of my life was in a country where we were legislated against, all right? And what was interesting was that Microsoft gave us the opportunity to get training, the best of breed training in many different countries around the world. We normally spend like a week outside the country and a week back in. So we traveled a lot for a year, but got best of breed training all around the world. And then as soon as we were done with our training, we were then given the opportunity to go out and literally run our own mini business within the business. So we were given a product, we were given a market, and we were given a territory that was largely untapped, and we were told to literally go and set up shop. All right. So that was how Microsoft did it back then, which hats off to that company because I've gone and traced back all 22 people and I've seen where they are today, and it's just remarkable, the step change that company caused.
Well, thanks for that history. That's really remarkable. And I'm sure it wasn't last year or 5 years ago. It was way back when they were very progressive in helping.
Exactly.
So, Andy, how does Salesforce partner, encourage, or advance Black entrepreneurs?
I do take notes on this because I want it to be accurate, so forgive me. But so there's a number of ways, and a lot of these programs obviously stem from the last couple of years. Obviously, on the fund that I work on, we've always had a mandate to invest at least in 50% of our founders and CEOs are either women or underrepresented minorities. But then across Salesforce, we launched a number of programs through our Equity and Justice Task Force. And so we launched a philanthropy program to invest in nonprofits that are helping advance education and other issues across the U.S. and particularly smaller nonprofits that might not necessarily have access to funding as easily. And then we also leverage our purchasing arm. Obviously, Salesforce is a big purchaser of lots of different softwares and products out there. So we have a commitment to invest at least $100 million in Black entrepreneurs where we would be the purchaser of their product, and then also $100 million in underrepresented minorities. So we've met the Black Entrepreneur Program, and then we are also increasing the spending every year by 50 to 25% across other companies, which is awesome. And then on the Ventures Fund, we had a commitment around $100 million to go to Black and underrepresented minorities that are led companies. We've met that goal now and continue to increase the number of entrepreneurs that are in our programs and continue to grow that, I think, 3x every year, which is awesome. The last thing I'll mention is the mentorship. So I think mentorship, you mentioned this too, but mentorship is so important. So as part of our purchasing arm, we also launched a mentorship program to actually connect these companies that we're working with high quality trainings around how do you grow your sales strategy, et cetera, that's taught by different universities and different experts in the field. And then in addition, they also get a mentor as well as a VP and above who's executive sponsor so that they can ask questions to, because sometimes working within a corporate, especially if you're a smaller company, can just be a daunting task, and there's a lot of, you don't know where to go, you don't know, who you need to talk to, and how all the programming works. So the mentorship program is a really great way for them to have a champion internally and someone that they can ask questions to and really understand how do I grow and how do I succeed when I'm trying to sell into a corporate.
Right, and I think we can't overstate the importance of mentorship programs. And so anyone out there who's considering it or a mentor, it's vital to the success of others. So very important. Thank you. So let's look at the other side of it. Crystal, you're an entrepreneur. Tell us just a bit more about your company, what products you have. What advice would you give entrepreneurs who are looking to partner with larger companies like Microsoft, Salesforce, or others?
Okay.
We definitely want the truth.
Yeah, so as a founder, which seems like I'm the only one that's on the panel that's a founder, and as a black woman, as a black woman founder, we hear a lot about the commitments that they're gonna give us the money, the commitment of the 100 million, commitment of the 50 million, but where's the execution? Because I know that I'm one of the top black women in tech, and I probably know all the other 50 of them, and we're still looking for the money. So we hear the execution, and we hear what you're gonna do, and we hear where it is, but we haven't seen it. We know that black women are the most overly educated, but less funded in any industry or anything. And I know people, like I said, I'm part of the top black women in tech, and we're still looking for the money. So the companies, I think, like make these headlines off of our backs. I think that they make these commitments and get these LPs, and they get people to give them the money that they're going to do these things for black women, but we don't see it. So that's my experience from it.
Okay, fair enough. Talk is cheap. So, but tell us the product. I want to make sure we understand what you're doing.
Oh, my actual company? Our company is a femtech company. I'm Ruby Love. I have a period apparel company. One of our biggest products is first period kit, because I just started off with just being aggravated, like with my menstrual cycle, and I just started a company, like I said, from the beginning, just from my frustration, and I wanted it to start like when a young girl started, like when she was like 9 to 11, and it's like one of the top products just for a mom to speak to her daughter about her body. It's not just periods, it's actually like about teaching, young girls about their body, a natural body function.
Awesome, awesome. As a father, the daughter who just has gone through that, I can relate. And so that's for fathers too, right? Fathers can use that product?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Siobhan,
Yes.
Absolutely.
talk about, how you see things. You've seen a lot, obviously, as a media publication and the media growth. How Fortune has sort of covered these, these developments and this progress, or sometimes sort of folk progress, right? So talk to us, tell us how you see it.
I think Fortune over the past few years has done a good job at elevating black editors, right? And I think with that, I think that's going to be, regardless of the topic, I think when we talk about diversity, I think just having that different lens or gaze is what's helpful in, I guess, telling these stories, whether good or bad. I think that's kind of where Fortune over the past few years has done a really good job at contributing to, I guess, like innovation and really kind of pushing that thought and action forward. It starts, I was always told the kid charity begins at home, right? So like being able to start internally and promote those people from within, I think that naturally bleeds through publication.
Okay, great. So we're going to open this up to questions if it's okay. So if anyone has any questions, get those ready and we'll hold the meeting. Actually, do you have a question back there?
Yeah, I have a question.
Go ahead.
If we have a question, right?
Go ahead.
Val Stellian here, founder and director, NYC Organics, also CTO Funeral, your official funeral app, coming soon to your iOS. So my question is for the female femtech. You said there seems to be I want to say freestyle when it comes to the money. You haven't seen the money. Why do you think? What is the reasoning behind? What do you think is the reason behind why you haven't seen the promise?
I think the reason is that people just don't want to give up the power, the people who have the power. And black women, we are very strong. We know exactly what we're doing. And I think that giving up the power, if you give us the money to actually grow our companies the way that other people get the chance to do that, you will see much more innovation and much more advancement of black women, and I think that's what one of the problems is. And black women, like, we don't want a handout. Like, we are actually working hard to really, and doing way more than most people who are getting the money and getting the mentorship and getting the help. And I think that they just can't relate to, like, how we do it. And I think that's where the crisscross is.
So you're saying there's been no funding from none of these tech companies in the last, say, 10 years?
It's under 1%, it still is, and every
Wow.
year it makes the headline, but it doesn't
Right.
move.
Like they'll print a New York Times headlines, like
All the
promise 100 million, and then
All the
still
time,
waiting.
or how she said that they got 100 million to commit to that. But where is that 100 million going? Because as I said, I'm one of the top black women in tech. And a lot of people don't like to, invest in consumer, because I'm a consumer product. But there are way more SaaS and, crypto and everything else that black women are doing. Like, every day, I speak to them every single day, and we all have the same story.
You think it would be different if you were in like the hardware sector or like the app
No,
sector?
because
You feel it
there's-
still be.
Consumer is very small. The majority of people are in SaaS.
So, did you know women entrepreneurs are so much more successful? The statistics bear it out. They're so much more resourceful and successful. So they do more with less, right? Because they're typically managing families anyway, right? So they
Right.
have those skills inherent in them. And so the reality is that it needs to be more funding, right? And there can never be enough funding, right? Because the exponential benefit is so great, right? Because they're more successful already without the funding. If they get funding, they'll be more successful. So it's a net benefit to the economy. So I know she's saying this in general, but if you guys want to respond or mention anything about what you see, and then Trevon, I'd like you to respond from from a media outlet. How do you see it? Is this I know a lot of stories where there's funding, but I also hear Crystal's perspective a lot too. Like a lot of folks aren't getting that. So why don't we ask you first, right? Go ahead and what's your perspective, and then we'll ask Rashawn and Nikki to respond.
I think I have a pretty similar perspective as Crystal, right? I think we all saw, 2 or 3 years ago in 2020, we saw all of these kind of promises and, we're going to donate $100 million, $10 million here and there, but like have we actually seen the needle move? I think that's not even necessarily speaking from a media perspective, because I used to work for Microsoft, I work in tech as well, right? It was a lot of lip service and money that you hear the terminology all the time, earmarked towards things, right? But like, how does that, and I think outside of the money, let's take a step back from the money, I think it's also thinking about like how people like allow you to leverage their network, right? Because that's even what's more important than even the money, right? It's being able to say, talk to this person, like they work within an accelerator that, they'll look out for you, or, the guy who did WeWork, right? Like he just went to Anderson Horowitz and got $200-something million. I think their largest seed ever, right? And it's kind of the same there.
Okay. So I know you guys don't represent the company completely, but from your perspective, I'd love to hear how you do.
I mean, so about 6 years ago, maybe just 7 years ago actually, I was able to get some funding fairly easily actually. And if I look at how that funding came about, it was largely through networks. So I still believe that a traditional application form is not the route to funding. It's certainly not the route to real funding. Unfortunately, you have to tap into networks, right? And I think that if I look at my experience 7 years ago, it ties back to even what I learned before that, which is probably why I felt the need to become part of the Microsoft ecosystem and use the ecosystem to really grow my networks and grow my credibility and get people to place bets on me. So I leveraged the Microsoft. I'm not saying that you have to do that. I'm not saying that that's now a necessity that you have to go through some corporate program before you're successful. But the thing is that I just happen to see a lot of benefit in that, because at the end of the day, it comes down to networks.
Not for black women.
You think even
Not for black women.
Right.
No, black women never their ass off.
That goes to the point that I was kind of saying before, right? Like allowing someone to leverage your network, right? And I think it kind of goes to, even when you do job applications, right? And someone's like, you're not a natural fit, or you're like, you don't fit. I think when, and you know, I'm not a black woman, but as a black man as well, too, right? Like you can be within these circles and be the only person that looks like you, right? So, not to say that, you know, this is best practice, but like, you almost need someone to be like, hey, like, you know, introduce this person.
you have to have a sponsor. I mean, what you're referring to right now is a sponsor. You
How I
absolutely.
raised my first deal was because of a white Jason Callahan.
Yeah, you have to have the one person who's going to take a shot at you and place their bet on you. And I think the hardest thing to do right now, and this is my advice for everyone, is find a sponsor. Don't even find a fund. Don't find a network. Find a sponsor. Find someone who believes in your voice and ride that wave. I mean, there's just a ton of books about it. Even if you move out of the world of funding, and if you just look at career success, even within a corporate, and I mean anyone within a corporate knows this, you need a sponsor. So whether you're outside on your own, or whether you're inside some kind of brand, you need a sponsor. No one's ever going to make it without a sponsor.
All right, next question.
I know how venture funding works, right? If you think about it, it's a lot of other people talking to each other. So I think the cold reach outs are always great because it does show the initiative, but frankly, I'm sure that they have a much lower success rate of actually getting to the funding. And so having that, not necessarily just the network, but I think that sponsor or that other fund that's going to say, hey, I know other people that, you know, would be interested in this. And they also can talk you up and speak about you versus just reaching out cold. And I do agree with Crystal on, you know, the commitments that were made, and there were a lot of commitments made. And so I think it's looking at reporting, right, and making sure that it wasn't a one-time discussion and more of an ongoing discussion and seeing where those companies are in terms of the commitments that they made and what have they actually done with that narrative that they've said.
Before we guys get to the next question, tell us what Jason did. Is he invested in the company? Or?
No, he was an investor.
He was. That's a great investment. And that's just stepping stone, right? So telling that story over and over, you know, having him navigate is great. Any other question?
I just wanted to come to you guys. I'm also with them. I deal all of the funding. I know exactly what you're going through. All right, there. I still got 6 million. All right. The problem of it is, and that's why I'm here now, is because, can I be direct? The BS that goes around with the system, the brother is saying, we're tired of being the flavor of the month. The press release is out, I got 100 million, and you go to them and you have all this red tape, like you said. Get rid of all this nonsense of red tape, okay? Now, other folks in other divisions will sit down, drink, have tea, and move on to it. Let's be honest. But when it comes down to black women, they are intimidating to really white men because they can't control. The sister's not having control. She says, give me the money so I can make you a lot of money. So a lot of this nonsense with all these corporations, I'm doing all that, this BS. Put your money where your mouth is. How much money do you need? Do I have the infrastructure? And go. Because they do it with young white males and white females are exceeding over black women only because they're white women. Not saying that they're not bad, don't get me wrong. But a black woman will walk in a room with all the dynamics, all of the degrees, everything else, looking great, speaking well, and then you have a white woman come in, half the education, maybe looking just as great, but will get all the money. So what the sister is saying, the brother is saying, stop this, because eventually white corporate America is going to be left behind. Because this sister, this brother, myself, at the end of the day, it is history in this country. We're going to make it work.
Yeah,
So that's what we
say. I know they're telling me to wrap it up. Really quick question.
No, to this point, I'm from the Netherlands. I'm from Amsterdam, born and raised. I work in advertising and fashion. And, you know, the Netherlands, 70 million people, so it's very small compared to America. I'm thinking, hey, career opportunities at Bandon. Let me move to New York. to only find out that it's the same here. And that was very depressing.
Thank you for those comments. Let's wrap it up. Any parting guidance, tips for these entrepreneurs out there? Any parting tips? I mean, mine is you got to network your butt off. Continue doing that.
You definitely stick to the sponsor and choose your battle. Choose whether you're fighting the broader cause or whether you're fighting for your own business. And my advice, fight for your own business. Okay, because if every single person did that, there'd be a tidal wave of change. You know, if every person just fought for their own business, you'd see a change happening bit by bit.
I think sometimes it's, this was a great example, but sometimes there's other forms of funding out there, so just continue to believe in yourself and what you're doing, and, as you said, if you're going to succeed, you're going to succeed regardless, so don't let a rejection deter you from what you're trying to build and your own success.
My advice is that they need us more than we need them. Because your company, if you were to build a company and raise funds, you're giving them equity away of something that you want to build. So stop thinking about it like this is your mama giving you money. It's actually a business, and then you think about it that way, they actually need you more than you need them.
I would say mine is just to stay resilient. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And if someone says no, somebody else does say yes.
Thank you so much.
Please do better now. Another round of applause. And also a round of applause to our moderator, James, for moderating. So already I feel like we're fired up. On the first panel, these are coming out, so that's good. So right now we're going to transition immediately to the next panel, because again, we have a lot of back-to-back conversation. So please give a warm welcome as I welcome the moderator for panel number 2. Boosie, please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Christine. Oh my goodness, these panels are amazing at the moment, I would like to welcome my fellow panelists. Liz Petier, Abdul Razak, Digital Marketing Strategist, the Stylists Star Group. Welcome, Petier. And give her a round of applause, guys, come on. And then there's Richard Ashe, Global Business Development Lead, Chrome Enterprise at Google. And Frida L. Thomas, who's a certified personal coach, certified professional resume writer, and LinkedIn profile expert. Change the pictures. Wow, welcome guys. Nice to be in the panel with you. Pleasure. Yes, I'll start with Petier. With you. Hi, how are you? Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. So my name is Petier and I am a digital strategist. And the way that I wear that hat in the world is that I have a digital marketing agency here in New York City. I've had it for 14 years. And the name of that business is the Stylists Group. And we do email marketing, all things social media has become, micro-influencer collaborations, because the majority of my clients are lifestyle and luxury brands. I'm also an adjunct professor at Lehman College, and you can guess what I teach, social media marketing. I sometimes also teach consumer behavior, but social media marketing has become a very important part of understanding consumer behavior. And the way that I got connected to GSC was through Grow at Google. I am a third-party trainer, and so during COVID, GSC, if you guys attended any of their events, their online events, you may recognize me. I was doing a lot of digital skills training on behalf of Google, and I really enjoyed it, and really in love with what this platform is about. I became an investor, and very happy to be here today.
Thank you so much, Petier. Richards, how do you get started? Tell us, share your amazing journey.
Thanks for asking, and thanks for inviting me. And I had so many questions about Grow with Google. You firsthand, right? I was going to give a shout out, but you're going to be better at than me. Yeah, so I've been in the tech industry since 1997. So in business development roles, US and MIA and in Singapore. And before I did that, I was an English school teacher for exactly 1 year. The reason that was only 1 year, and bear in mind, I thought I was going to be an English teacher for the rest of my life. One of my students, a 14-year-old kid, whose name I forget, unfortunately, but I'm going to tell this story, and someday he's going to raise his hand and say, hey, that was me. He told me I didn't look like a teacher. Well, I should be a business person. And I'm like, knew at the moment he said it, he's right, which is very disappointing. But yeah, and so, and eventually I got back into education in a roundabout way. I create a curriculum to teach coding through music production. And so we teach kids how to write code, remix music tracks. And something we've been doing at Google since 2017 outside of my day job. In my day job, I work with companies who are using Chrome as part of their business.
Awesome, that's wonderful. And Ms. Frida, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to just say I am delighted to be here, grateful for the invitation. I am a career coach, and in that role, I work one-on-one with senior managers, directors, and VPs who are experiencing career stagnation. And I help them move their needle in terms of strategizing and coming up with solutions to help them improve their positions within their careers. I'm a serial entrepreneur. This is actually my third business. I came by being a career coach rather fortuitously. I worked for a short stint at Citibank, and I was working as the administrative assistant to the head of the credit card division, and she pulled me into her office one day. She had to hire 27 new employees across continents, and she was not happy with internal HR. She taught me HR from job specification to exiting employees. And with that, I built my own HR management system using Smartsheet. It's a project management tool. And I went on to get certified as a professional coach so that I could attract the kind of clients who could afford my fees. And as well, I became a certified resume writer. I will share quickly with you all the nuances of what's going on in terms of, I'll wrap it up. In terms of what's happening in careers right now, there is a big shift in the economy. When there's a shift in the economy, there's a shift in hiring, and I'm sure we'll get into more of that.
Yes, but when I first met you, you were wearing your Google hat, and seeing you transition into different roles, I mean, it's amazing. So tell us what diverse founders can do to make themselves attractive in the digital space.
So first and foremost, understanding who your target audience is. I feel like a lot of people spread themselves broad and wide, and they have no idea who they should really be focusing on. So you really need to understand who your ideal target persona is, and once you do so, you need to find the centers of influence in the space. So GSC is a center of influence, right? And you need to not only join, but you need to participate. You need to raise your hand, right? So attending events like these, it's great to be in the seat, but you need to get up here as fast as possible. You need to seek out the people who can advocate for you. I think the last panel somebody said so. You need to know who the influencers are in the space and build relationships with them. And you need to also raise your hand and add value. Once people understand that you are within an ecosystem and you have something to offer, they are that much more willing to help you. And this has happened to me. The way I became a Grow with Google trainer is that, I had a similar relationship with Constant Contact. You guys know Constant Contact, email marketing tool. So I was part of their third-party educational team about 7 years ago at this point. All right, it was great. Now, right before COVID, I got a call from someone who I worked on that team, but she was the administrator, and I'm a CVS, and I'm looking a hot mess, and I'm like, oh my God, this person, I haven't heard from this person in 5 years, literally. And she said, Patia, is this still Patia's phone? And I go, yes. And she goes, you know, we have this amazing program, Grow with Google, very similar to what you did at Constant Contact. We're hiring, and for some reason, I thought about you, right? Now, she would not have done that if she thought that I was not a person who could add value to this program. 5 years later, we hadn't spoken. Facebook, hi, happy birthday, that was it. But because she had worked with me and because she was observing the things I was doing over those past 5 years, that's why I got that call. And the Grow with Google Trainer program, you can't apply to this program. There's no application. You have to be invited in. So that is the power of establishing yourself in an ecosystem that makes sense for you. I introduced myself as a digital strategist, and I explained how I show up in the world that way. That is very intentional. So when you see me again or you hear my name, you think digital strategy, right? So that, I think that is, you know, some beginning steps as to how you can really establish yourself and become successful.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that insight. And that leads me into asking Richard, how is Google helping diverse founders in the digital economy?
So, one, Patia. So Grow with Google is a really great example. There are a couple of different funding programs at Google. There's a Black Founders Fund, Latino Founders Fund here in the U.S. Given that we're at the Afro Future Summit, I'd also call out something called Google Startups for Sustainable Development. And so Google Startups for Sustainable Development, it is g.co/startups/SDG. So it's referring to the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And what this thing does, it's a really inspiring program. They really provide a few different things. One, advice, which is really a network of advisors. Two, access to a funding ecosystem. So various VCs and other funds that are really focused on sustainable development. And then technology. So this is actually working directly with people at Google, you know, Grow with Google, like Patia, other people in the network to help these startups adopt Google technology, such as AI for chatbot, for example, and actually help them ramp up and integrate that technology.
Thank you so much. And this leads us back to the resume whisperer. Rita, I'll call you the resume whisperer. I mean, you know, with what Patia as well as Richard have been sharing with us, how can diverse founders position themselves and get their resumes or CVs or products ready for these next spaces?
Great question, and a really important question. One of the things that is paramount is that your CV or your resume contains proper keywords, right? Those keywords need to parallel what is being asked in the job description. So when they say requirements, or this is what a day in the life of looks like, you want to have an 80% probability match with what you do on a daily basis. If your resume does not meet that description, it will not parse through applicant tracking software. If it doesn't parse properly through applicant tracking software, hiring managers won't see it.
So back to that, people say that people seem to be overqualified or underqualified. How do you deal with those nuances with regards to getting the language correct?
Yeah, so that's really not a question of the resume, right? Oftentimes that is choosing the job description that parallels with what you want to do, right? A lot of times we need a job, right? I mean, that's just being honest and clear about it, right? And you may know you're overqualified, or you may know you're underqualified. What I would add is a possible caveat is when you're underqualified, go ahead and apply and find someone within the organization that can mentor you, perhaps give you tips on your resume, talk to you about the skills and the kind of qualifications that would make you a primary candidate.
Those are some nuggets, guys, especially in employment. If you're not taking people more, it's critical. I mean, I've been a victim of that, so that's why I asked that question, you know? And back to you, Tia. What are some of the common mistakes that diverse founders make when it comes to digital marketing?
So starting off, again, like I said, with not knowing who your target audience is. Secondly, even if you figure that out, just entering into the space without any goals or objectives. Like, why are you even there, right? Are you building brand awareness? Are you growing your email list? Are you hoping people will hire you to speak? Like, why are you there? You have to have goals because the goals will guide how you interact in that space, okay? Now, once you set the goals, and what are the measures in place, right? So if it's brand awareness, that's like the size of your community. How many followers are you hoping to gain? If you're going your email list, you know, every month are you hoping to add 100 new people, right? So you have to also have measures in place to make sure that you are attaining those objectives. And also, many times, for some reason, there's just hesitancy towards using analytics and data. Like, you have to read the numbers, people. The numbers will never lie, okay? So, you know, many times people just want to do wonderful things and make pretty things and posts and reels and all of this, but is any of this content really resonating with your audience? And you will get that information from your data and your stats, right? Your engagement levels, your reach levels, your conversion levels. Gotta read the numbers. Numbers don't lie.
Yes, because with ChatGPT. This is just meant to be a joke. So, Richard, how is Google, what are some of the ways that diverse founders can leverage Google's products and services to grow their businesses?
So, Tia, again, really describes everything around digital marketing, so I'm not going to pretend to know that better. So I definitely look at grow with Google. So education being one really good example. What you'll find is Google, along with other companies, there is funding. What they do more of in general, and Google's a good example of this, is some sort of in-kind benefit or investment. So check out things like the Cloud Startups credit. So if you look for Google for Startups, you can get credits to use Google Cloud. And so that's really...
It's also open to people global or just
Yes.
local.
Yeah. So it's a great question. So check that out. So look at like sort of the in-kind benefits. If you're a nonprofit, there's also specific things for nonprofits, including ads credits. And as I mentioned, the Founders Funds. So I mentioned the Black Founders Fund and the Latino Founders Fund started back in 2020. So far, $48 million offered to these founders, and it's for no equity. So these are effectively just cash rewards. And that also includes advice and access to networks. So I would look at it, all those different aspects, you know, sort of the education, the in-kind benefits from things like Cloud for Startups and Google for Nonprofits, and then obviously the direct funding that I described.
Key piece of information. Frida, what are some of the skills and experiences that diverse founders need to succeed in the tech industry?
So I want to say that I am not a tech coach. I want to just put that in quotes. I have worked as a career coach for a technology school. I worked with Flatiron School, some of you may know of it. I worked with them for a few months. I will just answer this question holistically, right? And I want to address it in two levels. When you're a founder and you're also trying to pursue work, because like I said, we have our basic corporal needs. I would offer to you to think about it very strategically in terms of how you're going to go out and find that work. try and ensure when you can that the work you're pursuing parallels what you're founding, right? Because you want to show across the board synergy in your resume. So oftentimes when someone comes to me and they're just reaching out for a preliminary review of their resume, which I'll do pro bono, even if they're, just getting started. That's not my client, but I'll still provide that service. What I'll see is just this plethora of work that's just organic. It's all over the place. And that's a challenge because, again, the resume is going to go through software. That software is looking for keywords that parallel, right? And if there isn't that consistency, it's going to be more challenging to find the kind of work that will elevate your position as a founder.
That's all over the place. Okay, wonderful, yes. Katia, this is we're going to soon wrap up, and as we what are some of the most important effective digital marketing strategies for diverse founders who are looking to scale their businesses?
Absolutely. So I think that, there's this resistance towards AI. We just have to stop that. I think you should not be afraid. You should embrace it. You should learn about it and understand how you can use it to actually scale your business. I'm doing this right now with my digital agency, right? So 14 years later, my goal is to sell my agency. So I'm not going to sell an agency just doing what's going on now. It's going to have to be seen as valuable. So I'm starting to explore ways that I can use AI in my business. And we're not taking the human aspect away from anything. We're not all going to lose our jobs or whatever. But I'm going to tell you that the people who embrace this technology and figure out how to use it are the ones who are going to end up winning. So I would say that's the first thing that I would say, that we all need to not be so afraid and explore, right? There's ChatGPT, there's Google, Bard. Google Bard. I'm still on the waiting list. Hello. Okay. So we need to really explore and understand how we can use these tools to become better. Also, understanding the nuances of every platform, right? So there are best practices for email marketing, there are best practices for Instagram, there are best practices for Facebook, there are best practices for LinkedIn. I have to say, there's an opportunity in LinkedIn that I see that a lot of people are not using is LinkedIn audio events. You guys have the opportunity, right, to establish yourself as thought leaders by having really great conversations that can be just a couple minutes, right, to really engage audience on LinkedIn. The LinkedIn audience, as you know, is a very different audience from your Facebook, Instagram audience. This is where you can establish yourself as an expert, right? So everybody set up a LinkedIn audio event. That's your homework. After you leave here, and just have a conversation. It could be with your assistant. It does not matter. What you're doing here is building audience and showcasing your expertise. So understanding the nuances of all of the platforms. And also, again, in terms of finding your centers of influence, once you find those centers of influence, chances are they would have a larger audience than you have, right? And so understanding how to harness the power of engaging with their audiences, right? So that you can then become known within a space as being an expert.
Yeah, that's lovely information. You could keep the mic. Yes, because I was just going to ask about what advice would you give founders who are looking to raise funds from venture?
So in terms of founders that are looking to raise funds for venture, for one, talk to other founders. Talk to other founders, ideally founders that have had multiple exits. They will tell you the real deal. And basically what founders tell me is venture capital funding may not be the first thing you want to go to. There's a lot of good reasons for that. One, what you'll sometimes find is that you assume, based on their pitch, that's very convincing, that they're going to give you money plus access to the network, they're going to give you coaching, all these other resources, only to find that yes, they gave you the money. Did they actually follow through with the rest of it? There's one person you described, it's actually a company called Peakspan, and his name's Phil Durr, amazing human being. And what he described, the problem in the industry is that basically founders are being convinced to go for like multi-billion-dollar exits. And what he's telling founders is, try for a $50 million exit, or $100 million exit. Because once you get into that kind of unicorn space, it's kind of like, you know, someone setting you up for failure when they're sitting at base camp. And you got like 100 people and they're saying, okay, go to the top of Everest, I'll sit here in base camp. And then 90 of you are not going to make it back, right? And that's fine with me because that's my business model. The venture capital fund is like getting you to push you for like a multi-billion-dollar exit. You got to kind of sit back and say like, how are they actually supporting these people to get to $1 billion? Not a lot of people are going to do that. So I'd definitely be circumspect and reach out to other founders first to learn, hopefully not hard lessons, but lessons that they've learned from working venture capital. Because you may not need it all.
Thank you so much. I mean, we're going to wrap up in what, like 1 minute, and your closing statements, Frida. What are some of the things you could tell the audience to build their professional networks, and what's your advice to them? Your tidbits.
Okay, I'm a LinkedIn top voice. I would say make your presence known on LinkedIn and have a center of influence like this room right here. Patia introduced me to a contract with Goldman Sachs. So I cannot tell you the importance of networking and nurturing those networks.
Thank you so much, everyone, for what you say. We wrap up, and that's it.
I would just say be very intentional about everything that you do, virtually as well as, you know, in rooms like this.
Fantastic. And Richard?
Find other founders.
Find the founders.
Those that you, like Ms. Etienne, super powerful. I'm listening to people like that to learn more. I would suggest you do the same.
Thank you so much to these amazing panelists. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. We'll transition to the next panel.
Please, another round of applause. All right, and as we kick off to the next panel, can we please open the doors? Everyone who's networking, let them just trickle back inside. All right, how's it so far? A lot of content, right? So let's transition now to our next session where we're going to talk about the power of the global diaspora. This is a really powerful panel because when we're talking about people of Black descent, we tend to only talk about what's around our neighborhood, around our community, within the United States. But there's powerful influencers who are doing work around the world. So this conversation is not only about what they're doing around the world, but how we as Black professionals can tap in to Africa and other markets globally. So please give a warm welcome to our moderator, Ms. Georgianne.
Thank you so much, Christine. And I would like to welcome up our panelists, Brittany, Alvin, and Lakeisha. And everyone can give them a round of applause. Yes, the whole event is being recorded and streamed, correct? Yeah, so if you were to go online, you can find the stream. If we have, I think I saw Lakeisha come in earlier. Or so you can Oh, should just start? Okay. All right, thank you so much for being here with us. And first up, I'm going to have the panelists briefly introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about what they do. So I'll pass it to Brittany first.
Hi everyone, my name is Edefo Brittany Aikwile. I am a first generation American born. My parents are from Nigeria. I am Miss Diaspora Nigeria USA. I was recently just crowned in August, so it's very fresh, so I've been very busy. So how I got into this pageant was I saw it through a Nigerian community page online, Nigerian Nation, and I saw that it said, looking for young Nigerian women, ready to showcase their culture and, showcase their talents. And I was like, this sounds like me, because I work in business development and at a private bank. I help everyday people obtain home ownership. And so I was like, I wanted to pivot. I wanted to do something different because growing up, I was bullied for my name, for my culture. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood. So I felt like this is a perfect way to bridge a gap from Afro descendants to Africa. So that's why I did the pageant. and I'll tell you more later.
First of all, blessings to each and every one of you for getting here safe. May you get back home safe. Let's have some fun. My name is Alvin Hartley. I'm the senior partner of TMI and Partners. Believe it or not, we started our company 12 years ago, helping minority and small companies grow. Simple. It can't grow if you don't have infrastructure. You can't grow if you don't have mentors. It can't grow if we don't take care of each other. That is the method that we bring to the table. But also, what I bring to the table, again, I always thank the blessings that are brought to me. 2 months ago, we got hired by our client to represent $6 billion worth of funding. And my job is to take that portion of that money and reinvest it in loans and all types of products into minority companies. So today, if you really want to know who I am way after this, please talk to me. I love what Rose, I think the other lady on the previous panel was saying, was Ruby? It was Ruby. Ruby said, there's a time when you have to stop talking and show the money. Oh, I'm trying to get rid of the money. I'm just trying to, yeah, come on, just take it, okay? But today, we're gonna learn a lot, so I'm excited to be here. I'm so excited to be by this young lady. You don't have no idea. She looks like my granddaughter when she's gonna grow up, so I just want
Hi everyone, greetings. Good morning, no, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yes, energy. Good afternoon everyone. I'm Lakeisha Marie. I ran over here from New Jersey, but thank God, here on time. I'm so honored to be invited to speak. I'm based in Ghana, Ghana, West Africa. I've been living there 9 years. I run a PR agency called Forward Communications, and we're all about connecting really the world to Africa and vice versa. So we support brands enter Africa and connect with their audiences, and we also support businesses from the African continent connect with their audiences in the international market. In addition to that, we cannot live on love and just communication alone. Like my fellow panelists said, show me the money. I believe a lot of times when we get together, it is very much centered around culture and energy and, maybe even partying, homecoming, that's December, but a lot of times we leave money on the table. So my other work involves connecting the future of Africa and the Caribbean in terms of trade, investments, and pop culture through a platform called Wood and Water. And we just launched a Chamber of Commerce between Ghana and Jamaica. So we're really we're walking what we're talking about, where we're supporting businesses from the Caribbean to enter Africa and supporting investors that want to enter the Caribbean market. So we are truly at the helm, or just really at the medium between the diaspora and Africa, particularly between the Caribbean and Africa. So I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit more, but that's me, Lakeisha Marie Ford.
Awesome. Can we give a round of applause just to bio? Right, all of these individuals are doing amazing things. So what I want each of you to state is one specific way that your organization is bridging that gap. So, like you started talking about it a little bit, but if you could elaborate and focus in on one specific action item or product or service that you have that is bridging that gap, and then we'll go down the line.
Yes, so at Forward Communications, we have multiple service offerings. Of course, there's your traditional PR, where we support people enter into the media, or we do events. But what I want to speak about is our digital marketing offering, where we've done digital marketing campaigns for the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. And I'm really excited about what's happening around trade in Africa. So I'm going to speak specifically to that. We've been able to support the AFCTA in collaboration with AFTA to really connect with their audiences across the African continent, east, west, north, south, central. And that was very near and dear to me. In addition to that, we also have a special project / platform called Wood and Water, where we pretty much do a business brunch plus entertainment, and we talk about the business opportunities that exist between the Caribbean and Africa. We launched last year in December in Accra, and we had a business from Jamaica fly in to attend specifically for Wood and Water, and she was able to get a distribution deal in Kenya. And, you know, obviously I'm super excited about that, but that's just a testament and a case study to what the future holds for us. Our systems are not necessarily fully in place, but we're doing it. For the sake of time, I'll just transition. But those are our two main offerings, Wood and Water, the event platform, and our digital marketing and public relations.
Yeah, just one specific thing that you or your organization has been doing to bridge the gap.
Yeah, so I was just recently crowned August 6th in Chicago, Illinois. The pageant was Miss Diaspora Nigeria. And, you know, obviously this has given me the platform to, like, advocate for things I believe in and whatnot. At the pageant, obviously, I was able to show off my cultural heritage. The area I'm from in Nigeria is actually Edo. My dad is Edo, but my mom's, she's Yoruba and Igbo, so I like to call myself like a Nigerian melting pot. So like just showcasing like our beauty, our culture. So moving forward from that, what the pageant has given me is like a platform to advocate things that I believe and what I want to do in Nigeria and across the across the whole diaspora. So like one important project that I've been advocating for is children's healthcare and access to like healthcare, because my personal story is that I had a trip to Nigeria when I was 8 years old. I got infected with malaria and I was already in the States, right? And like I was so sick to the point where like it was like severe malaria and like it was entering my brain. And my parents really thought I was going to die because we went to the American doctors. They didn't really know how to treat it and whatnot. But, you know, like I was blessed enough to have an uncle who trained in Nigeria who like got me the right medications to save my life. So that's what brought me to do the pageant, because I thought about the kids in Nigeria and in Africa and how can we help them, you know, raise funds, because their parents might not know the right people or, you know, have access to the right medications for other sick infectious diseases. So that's like a way, and like this week since I've been, like it was United Nations week, so I've been brought to like many different meetings. I met up with NIDO, Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, where I met Dr. Abike and the president of the New York chapter. And we were discussing, there was also Kevin State Parker was there, senator. We were also discussing like how can we bridge that gap between the Afro descendants to Africa, because we're thinking about like how can we plan trips, because other countries you can get a free trip. Like how can we get our people of Afro descent to Nigeria and other parts to connect to our heritage. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And I also met the mayor and like different events that we had, like, you know, just bridging our culture together, which is really important.
I'm a doctor. Okay, we're gonna slow it down. Everyone take out your cell phone, open up a browser, go to tmium.com. We're going straight to the money. I can talk it, but you have to see it. Is that fair? Yes. Okay, brother, just talk. Let's get ready. Go to tmium.com. Bring it up on your browser. That's number one. When you get it, the website open. Go over to Financial Solution. When you find it, drop down menu to Funding Net Investment. We might as well just get straight to it, am I right? Yeah. All right, here's where it goes, okay? On the smaller side, I can do from $250,000 up to $5 million for small companies. And everyone knows, in order to get access to that money, you have to have the infrastructure. Please don't ask for money for $500,000 and you only got $50,000 in the bank. It doesn't work. You have to have the infrastructure. We take care of that. We take care of you on that. Let's talk about the bigger money right here. These young ladies and the people here. $1 million. I start with $1 million that I can give you high return. throw that away. With 5 million and above, I'm able to take your investor, take their money, secure their money, give you the loan, get rid of your investor in 6 months, 100% control of your project. Am I correct? Pay the loan back, make the money, move on with your life. I can take 10 million and give it 3 times non-recourse. That means if the project fails, you don't have to pay the money back. Are y'all with me? This is how this money works. For Microsoft and everybody else talking about, we have the money here, we have the money there, I would sit across the table, I says, okay, go ahead and give that company 5 million. I'll secure your 5 million, get rid of you in 6 months, and let them deal with it. We have control. Because my client sits on billions of dollars. They got people all over the world. The reason why they hired us to represent their money, because they said, we see what you can do with our money to make changes. And y'all with me here? So, at the end of the day, we can talk all that nonsense, I got money here, I got money there. No, let's get down to it. What does it take to be prepared to get access to the money? Everybody else talking about got money to help you got more red tape than the devil himself. Y'all understand? So I'm here to cut through all of that. I'm not here to talk nonsense. I love what I do. But there's nothing greater than investing money into black people that are going to make the change. Let me move on.
Thank you. So far we've discussed a lot of the opportunities that we see exist, and each of these individuals shared from their own experience and their organizations what can be done. But what I want to shift into are what are some of the blockers, right? So I know there's a lot of myths when it comes to the African diaspora or working within the diaspora. We've all heard things of, different folks from different countries don't want to work together, all of these negative things. So what is one myth that you want to acknowledge today, as well as say how it's being broken? So any myth that you see, or just any problems that people have come across while trying to work within that diaspora, no matter if it's from the US, the Caribbean, or on the African continent.
Thank you for that question. That's actually a very important question. I think it centers us and sobers us, right? We're really excited about the trajectory and marketing of Africa. Some people have asked, is this a trend? Is this something that's long lasting? It is not a trend. It's forever. I love that. It is forever. However, there is an aspect of marketing that's happening that is pulling people towards the continent. People are lured towards the continent, but not necessarily led. So yes, they come for December, they turn up, they go, they come for December, they get inspired to be there and want to live and do business there without really doing the research, without really spending the time and investing themselves to really be informed and have an understanding of the gaps that exist for them to close the gaps. So in terms of this question on the challenges, this idea of us being lured there, a lot of times we go on short-term trips and think that we have the solution for a space that we've not truly invested our time and ourselves in. And what that produces is a misconception of what you can actually do in the space, a misconception of what is actually possible, and we do hear, okay, Ghana, for example, Ghana is the gateway to Africa. The barrier is low in terms of starting a business. It is very true, but every space has its culture. So I want to speak about these things because these are things that you can't necessarily Google. No one's going to talk to you about it, up front. But I want to say there is, we have to be a bit more invested when we're connecting with the continent and not making sure that we're not necessarily going there in a superficial way. That's one thing. Second thing, legal. I think, I don't want to generalize, but I would say for first generation entrepreneurs, you know, however you identify, but I'll speak to first generation entrepreneurs. A lot of us are first generation entrepreneurs. A lot of us are doing business in Africa for the first time, even though we are from there, our families from there. Legal structures are so important, and I had to learn that the hard way. I think we think, oh, we can go there, start a business, oh, real estate, give money to someone and get returns, do Airbnb, everyone's going for Ghana in December. It's a great and linear way for anyone to reap, you know, returns on investment. Your legal structures are important. Your trademarks are important. Your intellectual property is important. Protecting your copyright and your partnerships are important. Understanding the type of partnerships you have and really codifying it. And when I say codify, I mean writing an email. Great conversation. Based on our conversation, this is my understanding, having it in writing. Because we're going so fast and we're excited, we're getting a lot of people being taken advantage of. It's happened to me. It's happened to people that I know who have really worked hard for years and unfortunately have had things taken right from under them despite putting the work in. So just to bring it back to the answer to your question, it's time for us to invest our time and our energy in terms of learning the space, not going there with a superficial mindset that we can just give the space a response or a solution that we don't truly understand, when we don't truly understand the problem, number one. Number two, getting really familiar with legal structures across the board, partnerships, business, you know, your business organization, your IP rights, copyrights. I'll keep it short. I have a lot more to say. I'll be here for a little bit, so if you guys want to talk, we can. But those are two things that I think are barriers that no one's talking about that we need to be sober about sooner than later.
So just like any myths or just any blockers that you think exist to creating that, bridging the gap within that, so just something that you think is a blocker.
Yeah, so this week I was at the Global Initiative, Africa Business Initiative, and something I realized is that if I didn't go have trips to Nigeria with my family, growing up, I would think Africa has nothing. It's just poor, there's no people there, we're underdeveloped, there's nothing you can do, all we need is charity, charity, charity. But so one of the myths is really just we were painted in that light, but we are a land of people who are resilient. We have the resources. You should come and do business with us. Don't look at us as charity-wise, So I think, being as Miss Diaspora Nigeria, I have this platform to now advocate how rich our culture is and how we have all these things and we have opportunities for business and growth and whatnot. So I think realistically, it's something that has to change, and it's only us, our people, who can change that.
Very simple. Stop listening to the media. Come on. Start putting money back into black media. Black media will tell you the truth. Run your ads in black media. Put your stories in black media. Come on. Go back to basics. Quit listening to the nonsense. And quit trying to be all of that. Believe in your family. They have taught us in this country that those black people over there are poor, uneducated. Them folks are better off than us over here. Trust me. All right? Second of all, like the two young ladies said, do your homework. Go to the conferences that are happening here in their country. Make friends. Develop the relationship. Stop getting caught up with white America media. Oh, you go into black communities and they all shoot people. Where I live, I'm jealous of the house next door to me. It's bigger. Don't you understand? I'm not here to tell you how it goes on trying to make you feel good. I'm telling you, stop believing in what they tell you. Believe in our family. we would tell you the truth. That's the love that we have. We love each other. Continue on loving each other. I'll be back to you.
Thank you so much. So we heard a lot of great things just now, so I just wanted to summarize a few of them. Essentially, just don't go in making a lot of assumptions, right? Do your own research as well as make friends, build a community, ask the proper questions, do your proper setup, and it's not just a trend, it'll be here forever. It's just now we have more resources through the internet, we have more connectivity to be able to leverage these opportunities to bridge the gaps in the diaspora, right? So, you know, take one step towards doing that. And so with that, my next, and I'm gonna try to open it up for some questions. No one has told me to stop yet, but I'm gonna ask one last question and I'll open up to the audience. So please, everyone, start thinking of questions you'd like to ask. But my final question is like, what could be a first step, right? Let's say everyone here wants to start working better within the diaspora, making connections and working within Africa. Is it that they should take a trip there? Is it that they should meet a friend? Like, what is the first step that they can take to start bridging that gap on the individual level?
Thank you for that question. So I realized that this was like a recurring question. I've started to do some like relocation consultation. Basically, connect with me. Connect with me. I've been in Ghana for 9 years, and I see that it is more than just tourism. It's more than culture. It's a space of ecosystems. I'm really riled up about getting people to shift their minds about Africa. And culture is important, it's who we are, but I want us to start centering our minds around creating new structures that center Black people, that center Black priorities, right? So that's your trade structures, that's your legal structures, that's your partnership structures, and not necessarily centering the narratives of oppression, but centering the narrative of Black excellence, right? So to answer the question, at Ford Communications we have an outfit that we're about to come out with called Africa Beyond Travel. The idea is we're looking beyond the culture, beyond actual travel, and looking at Africa as an ecosystem. And we're highlighting players from different ecosystems that have been contributing to creating new structures, as well as really building up economy in whatever country they're in. So connect with us at Ford Communications. We're on IG. There's a website you can also subscribe. We should be launching towards the ending of this December. Now, independent of that, practically, again, do your research. If you can't go to Ghana or go to Africa, I would say, continue to consume Black excellence, Black-centered media. Media that is, that prioritizes a wholesome narrative that comes from the African continent. And to be honest, some of it is true. Some of it is true. Like people are not going to say that, right? But if some of it is true, and if it is true, I implore you to look at the core or the impetus of what has caused that problem, and then look at what the potential solutions could be. And then also independent of that, if you don't want to do all of that work, that's fine. There's Zanzibar, there's Kenya, there's Botswana. Go on vacation, have a good time, do soft life. Africa has, like, anything you want, it's there, right? But I would just implore people to do their research, connect with people on the ground who have done it, people who are from the diaspora, and who can speak your language in terms of bridging the understanding from the Western world, but also experience from the African continent.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of ways to get involved. Like first step, for me personally, the way I found it about this pageant, it's Diaspora Nigeria USA. It was from a Nigerian community page. It's like a page filled with like memes and just making fun of things like our parents and whatnot. So I saw the ad for that and I was like, wow, this is perfect, because that on social media you can feel very connected to your community, even though if you're thousands of miles away. So that way, I would say like go to these pages that are, you know, are educational and fun, and you can give a laugh, because that really helped me. And like do things out of the box. For me personally, I never done a beauty pageant. This is the first edition of Miss Diaspora Nigeria USA. So like really like I wanted to do something different. I realized like this is a great way to connect to my cultural heritage. So the whole point is like maybe like you know any young girls, let them compete next year. Tell them about the pageant, because this has given me a platform to really just you know advocate for what I believe in, and you know embrace my Nigerian heritage and spread it, and let those little girls alone in those suburban neighborhoods that you know we are here, we are a community. Okay, so like that's pretty much it. I really think that like you know just get involved on social media, like do different African like events, and you know like that's pretty much it. But thank you.
We keep this basic, okay? First of all, how I got here, simple. I met up with Karen Booker right here, who introduced me to U.S. Africa Business Week. Then I met the owner. Then they invited me to the conference. I went to the conference. Then I met the founder of this organization. They invited me here. I kept it basic. That's all. One domino after the other. Before you leave, get to know the people. You ain't got to go to no place. We all are here. Start home. Before you go out that door, you'll be surprised how connected you will be. Right here. Back to you.
I just want to add one more point. So how I even found out about the Afro Future Summit was that as soon as I like won, I was like, let me find every like African like network business event. So I just sent an email to the info page, and I was like, hey, I want to come to this event. They're like, would you like to speak? I was like, yes. So yeah, just do your research, do social media and all that.
Yes, and of course I have something to add to that as well, right? So 9 years in Ghana doing the work, oh, that's so commendable. Let me tell you, I came home, I think I came home like a month or so ago, same thing, domino effect. Literally, I had planned to do Wood and Wanta, New York City, which we did, met amazing people from Wood and Wanta. Used that, oh, yes. We did Wood and Wanta, New York City. Oh, great, then you need to come and speak about connecting Africa and the Caribbean at the United Nations. And I just did that. And then I'm in the green room, and I meet Christine Tim, who is Haitian, her husband's Ghanaian, hello, connecting the Caribbean and Africa, and we just start speaking, and she invited me to be here. And I came from Jersey, but I would not miss this, because I really believe in building on all levels. You know, we kind of need to be under the sound of each other's voice in terms of understanding our perspectives and where we come from, our, you know, sharing our experiences. Okay, what has 9 years produced for you, Lakeisha? What has your time on your platform produced for you? What are your, what's your trajectory? What do you want to do? Somewhere, somehow, in the audience, you know, you get to connect with your community, and it's about building community. And I've just come to this realization over the past year that yes, I've been doing this work in Africa, but if you're talking about connecting the diaspora, you can't necessarily do it from one location.
Right.
We're literally everywhere. So I'm here in New York, I'm from Jersey, but I'm at home. I'll go to Jamaica next week, and then I'll come back, and then I'll go to Ghana, and then Lagos, and then come back home. There's a lot happening right here. So I would just implore you to just look into your community. Okay, we can applause now.
Thank you so much to the amazing panel. Do we have time for some questions?
2 questions.
All right, we can do 2 questions. I see a hand over here and then a hand back there. You all will have to fight for it because you're right next to each other. So
which one? Me or him?
This young lady here.
Hello, my question is for you, Mr. Alvin, because in the previous panel they discussed a bit about VCs, right? So I wanted to ask you, would you consider TMI a painkiller or a vitamin for entrepreneurs founding their businesses moving forward? To give you a little context, I consider VCs a little bit of a painkiller because of the way that they describe their execution goals, how they don't help as much.
Oh, no, I'm strict vitamin, girl. I'm all vitamin, okay? Okay, you gotta remember, my money, at the end of the day, my money is to help you grow. If you fail, you don't have, you're not responsible for paying it back. Okay? I'm here to get rid of the pain and help you to grow. And that's the truth. It's not, I mean, when you sit and talk with me, that's the truth. Okay? So I hope that vitamin plays a good one. Who got the next question? Yeah. Oh, this brother's going to be good. Yeah, this is going to be good.
Me, Val Selling, once again, founder and CTO NYC Organics. I'm sorry, founder and CTO of Funeral, the official funeral app coming soon to your iOS platform. So this question is for you, Mr. Harris. So do you invest in young black entrepreneurs like myself? Working on a funeral app? I need money. I've been self-funded for the last 7 years. I'm running out of money.
Okay, first of all, I'll just give it to you straight. You don't need no money. You need money to expand. It ain't what you need. It's what you got to have. I will make sure that you have it. And don't come to me for the $250,000. I need you to come with me so I can help you get about 5 to 10 million so you can buy and sell a funeral home.
Ha, that's right.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You know, because you got a lot of folks that are retiring. Get the money and buy them up. That means you can hire more black people. That means you can add economic power to the community. We're coming in with small money, baby. Let's go for the big.
I agree. I'm with you on that. Thank you.
Oh, you have one glass of okay, yeah. Like she's burning.
I probably will have more questions as we go, the day goes on. I'm Dr. Clotilde Mongouya. I don't know if this is recorded, but I'm going to speak in French because no one is left behind. I really, I just found out through, very incidentally, about this event, and it was raining, and I said, oh no, I'm not gonna go home, I don't have my glass. Finally, I said, yes, let me go. We never know. It's amazing. It's really amazing, but where are my friends? Où sont les personnes qui parlent français? Because, voilà, où sommes-nous? So I would like to stretch on the organizer that next year, if you really can make a bigger marketing so that we can be present, because we really not want to miss the train. I think it's time for action, and it's time to have everybody on board. I will get involved. So I don't know if I say I'm a physician, and I will be talking soon in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia next November. Just like you said, it's about connection. So I appreciate, and more questions later. Thank you so much for this platform.
So I just want to say thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you all for listening intently. And as a next step, as they told you, you have to take action. So whether that's by traveling to some part of the diaspora, meeting someone today, asking the right questions, but we are all a part of the diaspora, and it takes each one of us making an action or taking a chance in order for it to bridge the gap. It's not one or two people. We successfully talked to 3 people here that's doing the work, but we all can be doing the work, and before we know it, everyone's exploring all parts of the diaspora, benefiting financially, mentally, physically, and all the things from it. So thank you so much for having us today, and
thank you so much for this electrifying panel. You know, I must say, I heard from someone this week, just showing up makes a difference. Showing up, that's the little thing you could just do, you know? Because when you show up, you never know. I mean, for me, I'll tell you, I met Christine there, also during COVID. And we just grew from that independently. And so funny, I met Mr. Alvin in Long Island, independently. And Karen Booker found me on LinkedIn for the U.S. Trade Africa Business Week. And I was a speaker first and got involved. Yep. And it's just been a domino effect. And it's funny because Christine and everybody else and keeps supporting. So we support one another. It's building an ecosystem and strengthening an ecosystem. Because there's a proverb which says, if you want to go far, go together. If you want to go fast, go alone. That's what I would say, but I would like to segue into the next keynote. Thank you so much, panelists. The next keynote is by Mr. James Francis, Chairman and CEO of Paradigm Asset Management Company, LLC. Welcome, Mr. James.
Okay, I'll see you. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So, we're going to change it up a little bit. I am here to talk a little bit about AI. And what I want to do today is point out that we are living at the intersection of two very powerful forces that are shaping our world. One is artificial intelligence, and the other is the continual fight for social justice. Now, as we navigate the uncharted territory of AI, we must focus on the ethical considerations that AI presents to us. Today, I want to examine the relationship between AI. Oh, we're still in the first. The relationship between AI and the empowerment of marginalized voices. As we witness this rapid advancement of AI technologies, we must ensure that we do not perpetuate the same injustices that we've strived for so long to try to eliminate. And so there are some dangers. While there are many opportunities, we also have to be aware of the dangers. So let's keep it real. These systems are not neutral. They carry with them the remnants of historical information that was designed to distort, to devalue our people. And if we're not careful, this information that's embedded in this technology will continue to impact our lives in ways that we know and ways that we might not realize. So, in cases like facial recognition technology, we get racial profiling. Or in the cases of overuse of predictive analytics, causes over-policing. These systems have far-reaching implications into the criminal justice system, employment, and healthcare systems, just to name a few. However, today, as I mentioned, I want to talk about this AI from a slightly different perspective. I want to talk about what it means in regards to cultural appropriation. The last panel talked a little bit about culture. And our culture is rich, but our culture has also been used for the benefit of others without our due credit many, many times. So cultural appropriation is when one culture bites on another. They try to say maybe they borrow, but I think maybe theft might be a better description. So black culture is culture. Our culture dominates music, art, fashion, sports. However, we don't always get our due credit. Sometimes it's used without our knowledge, and it's certainly used without us benefiting. So, we've got to guard against the use of our culture as a commodity. And it didn't start with the Kardashians, this use of borrowing our culture. It actually started in slavery. And it was continued with these minstrel shows that demean our people. This created an environment where white culture became very, very comfortable with just borrowing our music, our fashion, our words. And I would say that music is a very, very powerful example of just how cultural appropriation has occurred. When you think about the king of rock and roll, who comes to mind? Elvis. Well, who's the real king of rock and roll?
Chuck.
Chuck? I think it's Little Richard.
I think it's
I think it's Little Richard. But despite his immense contributions to rock and roll, he rarely gets the credit that he deserves. In fact, white artists such as Elvis, such as the Beatles, David Bowie, and people even to this day, continue to bite on his style and his records for their own profit. And he got very little credit along the way. He would make a record one day, 2 weeks later, Pat Boone is covering it. So, in fact, let's hear from Little Richard. One more time. Got the wrong one. Well, he was on. There's a great show on CNN right now about Little Richard. And actually, I was going to give a totally different talk. But when I saw this cultural appropriation that occurred in his life, I wanted to tie in AI and this subject because I think it's so relevant. What he was going to point out in this video is just that very point of how white artists just took his songs and he actually went into ministry and just gave up performing because he could not get the breakout recognition that he deserved. As we'll see on the next slide, it didn't stop then though. We have seen white artists lean into hip hop culture like we've never seen before. Now this has sparked a debate of whether they are merely appreciating our culture, or others would say, which I would agree, I think they are profiting off of our culture. And they're doing so without the proper credit, the proper context, or historical reasons that we do sometimes what we do. So when they do it, it's artificial. It's not rooted in true culture. They're just putting on a mask, but they're reaping tremendous benefits. So you may be wondering, what does this have to do with AI? Well, if you go back and you understand the general way that AI works, it takes something old, it reconfigures it to present something new. So that sets up a perfect recipe. They've been fighting on the culture without technology. What do you think they could do armed with technology? So, if you think about how it works, once again, you can take a full library of R&B music, run it through an AI system. It's going to focus on the melody, the beats, the chord progressions, and it will be able to create an entire new song that's unlike any song, any specific song in the database, but it will sound just like some of your greatest hits. You could take Jay-Z's library and it could create not the new Black album, but the new Silver album. And once again, without giving due credit to the creators. So the fear, and the reason I'm pointing this out is, armed with this technology, it is going to be much easier to appropriate culture. Now, fashion is another area where blacks have set the trends globally. However, we often, if you go up in the day, you would go up in Harlem and you would see Gucci representatives taking pictures on the corners. 6 months later, that's what you would see Gucci making. But this is a representation right here of the first model created by AI. Now what makes this more insulting, it was created by a white male photographer. He owns her. And she gets plenty of work. But that's where the credit doesn't go to this fictitious person. It goes to this white creator, this photographer. And it's a perfect example of using technology to appropriate culture. So, you know, this has really led to a debate about digital blackface. You know, blackface used to be them putting on shoe polish and going out and, you know, entertaining. But now we have digital blackface. The ability to basically steal the representation of our culture and to profit from it. So my point to you today is, let's first take a quick look at, you know, what is the danger? The danger is first and foremost with generative AI, content can be created and spread super quickly. So it's the speed factor that makes AI more dangerous in this regard. AI can replicate the creativity without acknowledging the creators. AI, the third point is that AI can appropriate black culture without the understanding, the respect, and the historical context. This serves to dilute our culture. It misses something when it's performed or done by someone that's not rooted in where it comes from. And finally, the financial aspect. As I pointed out, we should do. When our culture is appropriated by someone else, that financial gain does not accrue to our creators or our community. And so it can be very, very dangerous. So, in conclusion, I want to point out things we can do and how you can make a difference. The issue of black cultural appropriation demands immediate attention. And it involves you. Of course, we need ethics in AI, we need diversity and inclusion, and we need governance. We must hold the developers of this technology accountable. We must hold the creators who use this technology to create digital blackface responsible, and we must make and hold the companies that create the technology accountable. But we also need to get involved. I've heard that a few times in the short time I've been here today. We have to become the developers. We have to become the stewards of this data. We have to be at the table to talk about the change that we want. Or, as I'm trying to point out, it will be a moving train that we cannot bring back to the station. Education, awareness is key. If we educate ourselves, if we educate others on what cultural appropriation is, then we can empower ourselves to make a difference. So, in closing, we must amplify the voices of our black creators, our black musicians, our designers, and creators. So if we actively support them and promote their work, we can break the cycle of appropriation and shift the narrative. Thank you very much. Is there questions?
Any questions?
Yes, thank you. I have a question. So,
sure.
I'm a software engineer and I love AI so much. So, I've been also like trading artificial intelligence in terms of like using Python and stuff like that. So, my real question is, one thing I'm working on a podcast whereby I try to like educate people in terms of the beauty of AI. Because I know there's like advantages of AI and there's also like disadvantages of AI. So in terms of we blacks, we don't really know much about the AI aspect, talking about technology. So like, what do you think we can do to like, educate each other in terms of like the advantage and disadvantages of AI?
Well, this is where I would hand the mic to the gentleman who's there. I'd like to keep it simple. First thing is, get on your keyboard and use it so that you understand it. Study it. Break it down so you know what the technology is. I do these talks because I feel that we need the awareness. And I'm trying to raise the awareness within our community. But we have to get involved. We have to use the technology. We cannot be afraid. So there's a lot of fear in our community about AI. This is a tremendous opportunity to level up. The technology is actually very easy to use. It's not going to bite you. And it is a tremendous, right now, efficiency tool. So, use it, study it. You can use it to study. The most amazing thing about ChatGPT or ChatSonic and these type of tools is you can go in and say, teach me about AI. Teach me at a 5th grade level. Now teach me at a 12th grade level. Give me a master's degree. So I would say, get in where you fit in. So start where your knowledge base is. Obviously you're more involved. So you can help by talking it up. We need to make sure that we go beyond just educating ourselves. As I pointed out, there are tremendous opportunities, but there are also challenges. So we need the governance. We need people to get involved to be developers and programmers. Because the bias that is in this data, the way these systems are set up, right now it's all about profit. We're not going to see money going into our communities with these technologies today because all the companies that are focused on it are focused on their profit at this point. So we are going to have to rise up, get involved, and be part of the process.
My question to you is, in today's society, there's really a whole lot of data, a lot of information, data coming from left and right. My question to you is, and it's very important, I've been in systems development for multiple decades, and one of the issues that always came up throughout my career is, how do you verify the data? And with today's data sprawl, how do they manage it, and how do you verify it? Whether it's black media, white media, you get information, how do you verify it? What do you think can be done in that area?
Well, there are many, because of these type of issues, there are a lot of new careers that are springing up. That is the job of a new career called a data steward, right? There needs to be data audits, but the reality is right now there is no governance. So these companies are, doing what they want and there's a rush for profit. So the data integrity is a major problem. I don't believe that is, what we can do right now is raise the alarm and advocate. Advocate for the governance at a government level, but also if you work at a corporation, ask what they're doing. Ask what their policies are around the data. And I think that's what we can do at this point, but we've got to keep the pressure on. And this one goes across all ethnic groups because there's a lot of danger in the misuse of the data out there. I think we had a question back over here.
Yes, I am a rock and roll photographer, and I have done my best to capture the greats, especially before they go, like Richie Havens and Bo Diddley. And some of the great whites too, including the ones that may have been difficult, like Blue Reed.
So what's the
hanging
question?
out with them, it wasn't fun walking into a room and then they break out in chorus singing The Colored Girls Go Do 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 Do. But the thing is there's no love when I come to these things and discuss my work. I'm also angry and so on. There's no, I love to talk because it touched on basically who I am and what I do. But there's no love here, and there's no conversation of gathering. And that's a problem.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's perfect, you gotta respond.
Actually, it kind of goes with something that she's talking about in regards to creating a platform for multimedia creators, especially of color, because I'm a Latina woman, and a lot of the social media platforms that we use today are created by men, specifically white men. And so I've taken on this big challenge because I have 8 years of production experience. But I did want to ask in particular, are there any data scientist companies or any data scientists that you can refer? Because I'm looking for our people in order to hire to help me create an AI to run the multimedia social application.
Offline, give you the sources that I am aware of.
Thank you.
I think the gentleman right here had a question.
I first wanted to say thank you for raising raising this concern around AI. I think most of us, when we think of AI, we think about machines just generating a lot of information for us. We tend to ignore that there's always people behind the machine, giving the base for the machine to continue. And my biggest concern, even beyond cultural appropriation, is we might lose or we might get our information falsified. We might get to a point where, because of what we are feeding AI, what the machine is giving us is actually not what reality is. And just to go with what he's saying, how are we verifying? My question would be, how do you think we can contribute more to creating or to feeding the machine to make sure that what the outputs we get out of the machine is actually what we want? How do we control the narrative around AI?
Own content, that's one way. Own content, blockchain, cell phones are helping because it's stamped to you, copyright, all of these things. But if you own the content, that's the good place to start. You gotta have content.
Yeah.
And there's no love for people that have content. They're not doing anything to help us. If it's not a certain type of content, hip-hop content, I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm a rock and roller. I've been hated by this community for the longest. Change that. Never mind the white man, you change that.
Yes, so I think it's pretty much the same answer that I gave before. We're at the early stages of this. These are clearly problems, and I think that's the point right now. They have to be addressed. There's no one person or one solution to particularly the data issue. What I would say though is, since this is we're talking a lot about the continent needs to get involved. The continent needs its data served up to these systems. The data is not in there. I would say that, developing countries are severely lacking in the inputs of the data these large language models use, which will skew the results. So it may not give you the results that you want because it doesn't have some of the things that you may be seeking, or it doesn't have the historical perspective that you might want to come back in the answers that it's giving you. Do we have one more question for? Okay. All right. Okay, great.
Thank you so much, James, for your. Even though you deserve a big round of applause. And I must say, every contribution counts. James has made a difference to start jumping into this space. There's a proverb which said, don't ask what my country can do for me, but what can I do for my country? In other words, our contribution will make an impact, not just expecting everyone to have solutions for us, but collectively we'll come to a conclusion with time. And it's a journey. We're trying to figure these things out, and we will, Yes, so we'll go to the next keynote. A lovely lady. I would like to welcome our next keynote, Ms. Anika Rahman, CEO of National Diversity Council. Give her a round of applause. Thank you so much.
really thrilled to be here. This is my first time at this summit. I come to you all with having experience, both professional and personal, in traveling to many different parts of the African continent. My first job actually in my career was in Kenya, and I've had the great good fortune of traveling to both east, west, and having being able to be multilingual, though I've lost my abilities in French. So I come to you with an appreciation of the African continent, as well as of diasporic communities. I'm a Muslim, South Asian, a Bangladeshi American immigrant to this nation. We are ourselves a diasporic community, and I believe in supporting all diasporic communities, most of whom are actually communities of color. I guess I have a deep reverence for the contributions of the African continent to world culture and politics, and I bring that respect and appreciation to all the work that I do and everything, and not just speaking at this conference. So I just want to say that as a woman of color, a Muslim immigrant, I share the lived and have the lived experience of understanding multiple forms of discrimination. Despite having had the privilege of having a wonderful education, when I came to America at the age of 18, I quote-unquote discovered racism, where I was simply judged by the color of my skin. Not my soul, not my intellect, nothing else, but by the color of my skin and people's assumption of what that skin color entails. What the quality of the person is just based on skin color. So I come to you to say that I understand profoundly discrimination, and I understand that one of the biggest challenges any group that starts with the word Afro Future is going to face is going to be discrimination. Racism, its biases, and then for those of us in the room who might have multiple identities, we may be women, disabled, LGBTQI, the burden of that discrimination is much more profound because we face multiple challenges as we deal with this. So I came to just share my own view that one of the ways to counter these challenges is the field that I'm working in now. I'm a lawyer focused on human rights and social justice, and I took on this work around diversity, equity, and inclusion because I really profoundly believe that it is a way for us to advance. It is a way of creating a culture and a society where each of us can be our full selves, can be authentic, and where we are respected. Of course, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is a field that has emerged more recently. It got a lot of recognition or a spark with Black Lives Matter and the protests of 2022. As you know, however, that things like that don't last. However, the good news is that this is a field that has burgeoned, rapidly grown in the last 10 to 15 years. And I want to ask you all, how many of you have heard the term diversity, equity, and inclusion? Okay, great. How many of you have worked even in entrepreneurship? How many of you are trying to live into it, implement it, or have been, let's say, participants in a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy policy? Great. Can I just ask, in what kind of workplace, sir?
Technology company, marketing, branding.
Okay. Anybody else with a different?
I do training, leadership training.
Okay.
Human resources.
Okay, excellent. So I have people here who are, I'm not preaching to the choir, so I'll keep the preaching part out. But what I do want to say is that I really believe that the moral philosophy of DEI, which is the appreciation of each of us as individuals and each of us to be ourselves, is the centering philosophy, in my view, to DEI. And it is something that I think that we can use to advance society, not just ourselves, because, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, I say. That creating a more just and equal society benefits everybody. So I'm going to, and I think it helps underrepresented communities, especially BIPOC and communities of color, address the biggest, I don't call it elephant, the whale, the profound issue of racism, right? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what you can, I hope, use in your work, in your personal and professional journeys about why DEI is important. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the business case for it that you can build in to your own work and use for, I think, our own personal development and awareness. So clearly for me, DEI is a fundamental moral imperative because it is an aspect of human rights and social justice that we need to build into societies and the workforce. But, you know, that doesn't convince everybody, okay? I've realized that moral imperatives can be ignored. But there are 5 critical trends, and I have them for the United States. I don't have the data point yet for global on these issues or for the African continent, so forgive me for that. But since we are talking about the diasporic community in the United States, I thought it would be okay to focus on that because I also saw the numbers. As you know, the largest African diasporic community in the world is in the United States. 45 million people. Actually, yes, 45 million, with Brazil being the second largest. So it's really, I hope that the numbers have relevance and speak deeply to people in this room. So let's talk about, I'm identifying 5 trends that we all need to be aware of and use, I would say, to our advantage, and for everybody's good. The first is changing demographics in the United States. Any of you heard about that? Okay, let me get into it. Demographic change is impacting all aspects of our society more quickly than ever before. By 2044, which is what, 11 years away? More than half of the US population will be communities of color, and there will be no clear racial or ethnic majority. I find that pretty profound. That's 11 years. We already have some states where there are majority BIPOC communities. In fact, Texas recently transitioned to being majority Latino. Kind of a surprise, you know, that's the reality of the world. By 2016 in this country, the population of multiracial people will grow substantially. And the black population in the United States is also growing. In 2021, this is why I need to look at these notes here. There will be an estimate, in 2021, there were 47.2 million people self-identified as black. That's according to the Pew Research Center, for those of you who are wondering about data verification. That's a real number. And blacks make up 14.2% of this nation. That's a pretty high number, okay? This marks a 30% increase, 1/3, since 2000. So it is a growing diaspora in this country. Just half of the US black population, 45%, was younger than 30. So it's a young, tells you a lot to know that the black population at 45% is under 30 in the United States. And let me just tell you how this, I tried to draw data on the US labor force. So the US labor force increased by almost 9 million people in the last decade and through 2030. People of color will become a majority of the American working class in 2032, only 9 years away. So these are profound shifts that are influencing all the other people who are not in this room and other communities, and I would say dominant communities, because as I say, you got to deal with us. And we are becoming more powerful, and we are here in larger numbers. And so I tell people that we have to deal with this demographic change. We have to adapt to listening and hearing the voices of communities of color, because this is the profound reality, and we have to listen more to people of African descent, because we collectively, and you all, will play a much greater role in sustaining the economic development of this nation. This nation cannot continue without your participation. That's just a fact, bottom line. Second, I love these numbers, they took me by surprise. Buying power in the United States, building on that demographic change. Love these numbers. Since 2000, all consumer markets for communities of color have grown faster than the buying power of whites. Okay, and I have some numbers here. From 2019 to 2024, which is just next year, right? Black buying power reached 1.4, I'm going to say this, trillion. $1.4 trillion. I don't know how many zeros that is, but I think that's a lot of zeros. Okay. And it's expected to grow to 1.8 trillion, in the next decade, a number that is higher than the GDPs of countries like Spain and Mexico. So that is the buying power of the black community in the United States. That's a force to be reckoned with. So you need those numbers to understand you're not asking for charity, you're not asking for philanthropy, you're not asking for somebody's goodwill. You are exercising your power as a member of this demographic change. This trend is confirmed by last year's Deloitte report on DEI in the consumer market. Oh, just I have 1 minute, oh God. That consumer buying power is more diverse. Now, next trend to know about is talent and skill shortages, right? We're working in a 21st century global economy. There's skill shortage needs everywhere around the world. The United States is drawing more and more immigrant populations and communities of color to meet that gap. And so this is what is also important, that we need to deal more in a multicultural setting, multiracial setting, and there will be more of that in this country. Fourth is globalization and technology. This is what the previous speaker spoke about. Technology is global. It is being utilized across the world, and there are new forms of exchange, and some have profound implications. And we need to realize that the so-called developing, I've always had a problem with that, developing countries, because these are countries with thousands of years of history, all right? But okay, developing countries are set to account for 60%, 60, and that's not including Mexico and countries that are very on the high end of this. 60% of world GDP by 2030. What does that mean, right? Power is shifting. Economic power is shifting. We are present in larger numbers in the United States. We've got to use that, right? And then here's the other thing. A Gallup poll found that in terms of management, the fifth trend to know, what attracts talent? What attracts the best people to a company? Study after study has shown that the management behavior most likely to affect employee engagement was demonstrating a strong commitment to diversity. So in the US, when evaluating companies and jobs, 76% of job seekers say a diverse workforce is an important factor. I share this with you all so you understand the trend lines, the importance of DEI, and let me just quickly tell you the business case for DEI. 4, that the infusion of diverse perspectives contributes to better organizational decision-making, better risk-taking. So companies with greater ethnic diversity in executive teams are 36% more likely to outperform less ethnically diverse teams. I tell this to everybody. Okay, she's telling me to keep quiet, but I'm just going to run through 3 more things. Diversity fosters and enhances employee engagement. It creates a more inclusive culture so that all of us feel more comfortable, we can live into our full selves and be better leaders and employees. And also when organizations are more inclusive, all people are allowed to reach their full potential. And I think that's really important. I'm going to shut up now. I have a lot more to say, and I will take questions. Do I have time for questions? Okay, I'll take 1 or 2 questions. Yes.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could give me the top 3 tips for rolling out a DEI program. I don't know if you're any organization right now.
Yeah, that's a really big question. A lot of it depends. I think the first thing is to get buy-in, and then to understand the data, which is what is the profile, what is the demographic profile of that organization, where are your shortfalls, where do you need to go, because you need to look at recruitment, retention, but I also say that DEI is not just HR, it's the whole entity. Who are you marketing to, how are you marketing, how are you taking into account the perspectives of your consumers?
I also want to point out that I hire a lot of women of color, so how does that apply to that?
We'll talk about that offline.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
I've been hearing the term change management being
Yes.
thrown around a lot nowadays. Can you talk about a little bit the difference between DEI and change management today?
Oh yeah, of course. Change management is a decades-old term that comes about when you have to restructure, when there's a recession, when there's a change in leadership, right? It has nothing as such to do with DEI. DEI is centering diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the reason people might be using it as change management because it's a softer way of saying the same thing, right? We're getting some pushback on DEI. I didn't get to talk about that. So with DEI, you're talking about looking at an organization or a company, looking at how it deals with diversity both externally and internally. So and how to ensure there's equity in that organization, how you're doing equitably externally, and the inclusion and belonging piece is really important. Those were never part of change management, but that might just be a more okay term. But I like to be straightforward about these things. Change management is not the same thing as DEI.
I recently went to a talk that kind of had the opposite.
Thank you so much, Annika. I mean, you can ask questions after this, but thank you so much for your insight and educating us on DEI. And without further ado, I'd like to invite the next panel. There's Kathleen Cronin, who is the Regional Program Assistant, Outreach Coordinator, Small Business Development Center, SBDC, and Kenneth Abbey, Executive Director and Chief Development Officer, Black Entrepreneurs NYC, BENYC, and Danielle. Thank you and welcome. Yes, thank you so much. They deserve a bigger round of applause. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Danielle, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up doing what you're doing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniela May, and I'm running for City Council in the southeast part of Queens, New York. I came across this great event when they had the Forbes and Culture first event back in February, and I loved it. It was great. I was able to meet a great network of people and just remain in contact with everyone, with Christine. So I was very appreciative of that. I didn't even know I was going to be sitting up here right now. So when she asked me, I said, oh my gosh, yes, the panel's great, especially as it relates to small businesses, to businesses as a whole, because I do have JFK Airport in the district, and those government contracts are there for us to bid on. And as a Black community, we are actually getting the least amount of those contracts in JFK Airport. So thank you.
Thank you so much. And I would like to our next panelist, Kenneth Abbey, who's been amazing with regards to making us aware of what's happening in opportunities for people in the New York area. Please introduce yourself and tell us more about Black Entrepreneurs NYC.
Thank you, Busi. Well, good morning, good afternoon. I'll tell you, sometimes days go so fast, don't know what hour it is. It's a real honor and a privilege to be here. I want to say, you asked the question, how do I get here? I looked around and I looked at my email. There have been some very dynamic Black women who have been at the forefront of this organization and a lot of the work that's happening in New York City and around the world in terms of bringing us together. And I just want to acknowledge and say thank you to Christine Tim. I want to say thank you to Letitia Boateng, and I want to say thank you to you, Lucy, for your leadership and your continued presence in bringing us together, because this is the only way we can move forward. So thank you. So my name is Kenneth Eby. I am the inaugural Executive Director and Chief Development Officer of Black Entrepreneurs NYC. We're an initiative of the New York City Department of Small Business Services. And the mission of the initiative is in the name. Our efforts are focused on providing information and resources to connect Black entrepreneurs, both aspiring and current, and business owners to the resources they need to start businesses and to scale those businesses so they have an economic impact on our communities. And so I've been in this role for about 2.5 years, and I think it's really focused on our key thesis, which is that business ownership is the key to addressing the racial wealth gap. There's no single silver bullet, but we believe that business ownership is critical. And so to provide information, to put our business owners in a position where they are able to succeed is really at the forefront of our mission. So we have, over the past 2.5 years, we've served over 4,600 entrepreneurs through our events, our programs. We have mentorship, we have training services, we have a legal services program that is in the process of getting established, and we're also providing what I think we all believe is critical. We know from the culture we come from, when Lucy says, what brought you here? My people brought me here, right? I was born and raised in Chicago, but my parents were born in a small country in West Africa called Cameroon. And they came here. Thank you. And they set up shop in Chicago. They raised their family. They built community. They stayed connected. And it was their goal, and it's my goal to stay connected as well. So community is at the heart of what we do, BNYC. I always say this, and I close every event that we do with the adage that was essentially my nutrition growing up around the dinner table. My parents would often say, if you want to run fast, you run alone. If you want to run far, you run together. I know everybody knows that. That's what we're about at BNYC. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenneth, for those words of wisdom. And Kathleen, you're always pushing others at the forefront of business. Tell us a little bit about you and what brought you to this place.
Well, thank you, Lucy. I'm here today because of Lucy and also US Africa. I was speaking for Women in Trade about a week and a half ago, and then Lucy was so gracious to invite me today. So basically, I like to help empower people with information and create cross networks, especially global diversity. I do come from a predominantly Irish family, but I'm also very much into global diversity with the UN Women. That's why I became a part of US Africa to help connect the dots. I really believe in SBS. I love small business services in New York. They helped so much during the pandemic. I can't tell you. So thank you. Restructure helped, especially the free legal and taxes, everything. So basically, I'm with the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, New Jersey, but I've also worked in New York under the SBDC also, anything we can do to help. So everything from startup to next stage to procurement, government contracting, loans, and also very importantly, when you start your business or you're already in business, if you need to network, connect to the next level. How do I grow? How do I grow and glow? So basically, I'm here just to answer those questions. And also, our service is free of charge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Kathleen, with regards to contracts are essential for any business, but they can be especially important for Black entrepreneurs who may be more likely to face discrimination in the marketplace. It's important to have a lawyer review any contract before signing it to make sure that you understand all of the terms and conditions and that your interests are protected. What do you think?
I agree, absolutely. Have a lawyer take a look, have an accountant, have the right people take a look at your paperwork, and especially if you have a nice solid business plan, that helps also, because it's like a map. It helps you lead in the direction you want. Just as you know, the government has this thing called set-asides, which most of you already know this, but there's a certain percentage that, you know, women in business, the MWB, Minorities Women's Business Extension, the enterprise, that's part of the program, and SAM.gov, there's so many different levels, but if you enter any kind of procurement, definitely have a few things ready, have a solid business plan, have a good background, be in business for at least a year and a half. And remember, women in business, make sure you're 51% owned. So this way, then it's all yours. If you're going to share a partnership, it's a whole different level again. But as long as you get your paperwork done, you have the right person, the right counselor to give you the right amount. If you're unhappy with it, go to another counselor. Try the SBDC in New York because they work really well. There's many centers. I'm familiar with Brooklyn. And then there's the NGSBDC. If you want, you're New Yorkers. You want to do business in New Jersey, I can tell you how to do that. But for New York to do business in New Jersey, you have to have a New Jersey address. Just that's the caveat. So basically, that's kind of how you do from state to state.
Thank you so much. Ken, do you have anything to say?
I think that covers the work that SBDC does. By the way, I'm a tremendous fan and really appreciate the connection that you make between entrepreneurs and some really important services that business owners have, like legal services. So I think that this is a really important issue, particularly for Black founders, Black entrepreneurs. I extend the same conversation to all kind of entrepreneurs from historically under-resourced communities, and it is that you don't really have as much of a runway to fail as a founder, as a business owner. So for that reason, it is all the more critical that with that one shot that you have in starting a business, you lay the proper foundation. And that means making sure that you have consulted with legal counsel to review any paperwork, any documentation, particularly in the context of a partnership, that is something that you don't just go into based on a handshake. Because the reality is that many of us, we come from situations where we are probably, leveraging our own personal assets. Many of us start our businesses with our personal credit cards, and we run out of credit card debt. We're unable to get business loans due to a variety of reasons, which we don't have enough time to talk about history here. But we don't have as much of a runway. So when you get started, you have to make sure that you're started on a solid foundation. So legal services in particular are critical, and that's something which we try to provide through the Department of Small Business Services for people who are looking to start up a storefront business, who need support with negotiating a lease. That is
locations.
Yeah, locations, yeah. You get support through our commercial lease assistance program. As I mentioned earlier, through BNYC, we have actually, we're going to be launching a legal services program, but we did a pilot during Black History Month in February where we provided a resource which was much needed in terms of the conversations we're having. A lot of founders, and this is real also in our community, how many of you either are or know someone who has a 9-to-5 and is operating a side hustle? Put your hands up. I'm putting my hand up. I have a side hustle. So that's just how we do. So a lot of times our side hustle is not something that we're actually, we're monetizing, but we're not optimizing. And we need to think about setting up a legal entity to run that side hustle, that business. Mine is an LLC. But for many of us, we just think that we can do this on the side because we have 9-to-5, but it's really important to have that formalized. So we learned that from our community, and what we did was we set up a legal clinic. It was a pop-up legal clinic during Black History Month where we focused on artist entrepreneurs, and in the span of a few hours we were able to set up 15 owners, 15 founders with
That's
LLCs,
fantastic.
free of charge, which is really, it's a critical service, legal services.
Why is the man to go to about that? And yes, thank you so much, Ken, for your insights regarding setting up businesses in New York. And Danielle, please share your insights.
Well, I'm all about bridging the gap and letting you know that sometimes you don't really have to run through your personal credit card to open a business. You could actually do that with a nonprofit and do that. So sharing that information just by going to the Department of Treasury and seeing these things. Sorry, can you hear me now? A little better? Okay. So, and just getting that knowledge about certain legislation and certain bills that can potentially, decimate small businesses. You just want to be aware of these things. So I'm all about providing information. I love sitting up here with a paper where I can absorb this and take it back because I'm all about saving small businesses and letting everyone know that there's money out there, we can get it, and we all have to share it. So
yes, that takes me back to, thank you so much, Danielle, because people always talk about access to funding, access to financing. Sometimes it seems like these are phantom funds. So what would you recommend in regards to capital, Ken?
Wow, it's a big question. This is issue #1 for the businesses we work with. It's, where can we get funds? Where can we get a loan, not even a loan, where can we get free money, a grant, right? Some of our businesses are already drowning in debt, and some of it was taken on at very inequitable terms during the pandemic, and people are just trying to survive these, these terrible interest rates. So we've been trying to address that issue as a really serious issue. I should mention that, as I said before, our initiative is housed in the New York City Department of Small Business Services, and so this year, it was during February, our commissioner, Kevin D. Kim, announced the Small Business Opportunity Fund, which was the largest public-private partnership loan fund in the history of our city. It was a $75 million loan fund focused on getting capital to small businesses. And this is really a very, very flexible program which provided low interest rates, flexible loan terms, and really was targeting not particular sectors, sector agnostic, and whether you're a startup business, whether you're a business that struggled through the pandemic, or you're a successful business looking to scale. So that was issued in February. I should say, within 2 weeks of announcing, all of we had to shut it down because there was that much demand, and it's very real. It's very real. So we're just kind of evaluating, the process went through. We worked with a series of CDFIs, partners who we basically processed and provided customers to them. And we're looking at the numbers now, but I'm happy to say that a very significant majority of the recipients of the funds thus far have been MWBEs, minority women-owned business enterprises, and a quite significant percentage of that has been Black-owned businesses. Now, I say that not because there won't be another small business opportunity fund. There may be, and there may be an expansion of it. But if you don't know about it, you can't access it. If we don't know about these programs, if we don't know about all that SBDC does for small businesses, we're just left out in the cold. So what I often tell people is it is important to make sure you're putting yourself in a position to succeed by being in the rooms where you can get that information. So I think, kudos to all of you for being here. This is the first step. But in terms of capital access, that is so critical because these are resources that often, as soon as the word gets out, they're exhausted. Whether it's a grant opportunity, whether it's loans, whether it's a program like Small Business Opportunity Fund. So you have to be prepared. You have to have your documentation. In order, you have to be looking, you have to be on the right listservs and the right groups where you're going to be able to get information on these important opportunities.
Thank you so much. I mean, that's very insightful because many a time it's not so much, the information is there, but how do you position yourself to have access to that information, and what rooms you go into to access that information, or where do you look for this information, and also how to be prepared, you know, because sometimes you might have this information but you don't know where to start from. Kathleen, would you help us tackle this?
Oh, absolutely. I love helping people prepare for disasters. I was actually a teacher at a college who was interested in starting my own education business for ESL. And at the time I was hired just to start helping with Hurricane Sandy within 6 months. I was in 3 towns. All I did was knock on doors, get shouted at, yelled at, all because of loans they didn't vet, and they didn't prepare, didn't pay their taxes, didn't even know what a FICO score was. And then I got blamed because they didn't get the loan. But I did end up helping 36 businesses in Burton County, so I was happy about that. And it was just information, just like you're all here today just to get more information. So basically you have all these different backgrounds of where do you get the money. So for example, like the nightmare began in January 2020, but also the government announced the idle. Next thing everybody's like, what's that? No, so the money comes and within like a month, gone, maybe 2 weeks. It was that 10 grand gift that the government gave. And after that, it's all it was for the next 2.5 years, grants.gov. So basically what I look at is for people who are looking to expand their business, sometimes you don't get paid when you're supposed to get paid. How do you expand your business? So a lot of people look at grants, they look at grants.gov. There is opportunity to help. SBS has been really good at helping with grants, and also SCORE is another organization we work with. I actually work in New Jersey. I'm with Ramapo College of New Jersey. I work at the SBDC there. So but we have a lot of people that are looking to do business in New York. They want to know how to do it. So I send them basically to there. Also in Queens, you have really 2 good SBDCs. The LaGuardia SBDC with Harry Wells, a great guy, and you have the Queens Technology in Queens College, 2 fabulous, everything about IT. So anything that you're looking for, scientists, SBIR, any kind of grants, loans, information, we have all the information. One size does not fit all. Just because you can't get a loan does not mean you can't get money. We'll help you figure it out one way or the other.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. Yeah, that's very insightful, the databases, the research, you know. This, maybe Danielle could help approach this question I have regarding funding or assets and that kind of thing. You find scenarios where entrepreneurs feel they might have figured out the distribution channel, whereby they even have their product on shelf, but they don't really have assets when they're figuring out applying for these loans. They think they're going to be rejected and they don't even try. What would you advise some of these entrepreneurs who seem to be very entrepreneurial, they're figuring it out in some aspects, but they don't seem to, it seems like the product is out before the funding. What would you say for that?
So we're going to go back to the grants. I'm all about getting the free money that's there that can be accessed because you can use that to do so much because you're employing those in your community when you get these grants and that free money that's there. So hire a grant writer. That is the best thing you can do.
Hire a grant writer. There's no need to feel embarrassed about you not having an asset base or having it all together in the back end. You can try some.
Hire that grant writer and spend that. Grant writers are like $4,000, $5,000. Spend it. It's worth it. They will write that grant how it's supposed to be written so that you can get that approval. And that's a lot of the problems why a lot of people are not getting approved for these grants because they're not written properly. But we don't know how to do them properly. So just spend that money that you would spend. Run it back and forth to the bank to go apply for a loan that's going to give you a high interest rate. Or go and pull out all this debt that you don't need. Just spend that money and do it. It's worth it.
Thanks so much, Danielle. Kenneth, it seems like you have something more to say regarding
Oh, I think she covered it. I think it's important for you to appreciate the fact that wherever you are, you live within a municipality and a state. You should take advantage of the resources that are paid for by your tax dollars, from city government programs, state government programs. An agency like the agency I work for, the Department of Small Business Services, is set up with the express purpose of supporting small businesses, whether it's providing access to these capital programs and information, or helping you navigate government contracting and kind of, depending on the type of business that you've set up, there may be different regulations that you have to comply with. There are certain licenses that you have to get, and you have to maintain certain authorizations and things of that sort. So to navigate where to go to deal with the food truck license versus whatever you need to get a bar stood up, liquor license, and all of those things, you need to have the ability to navigate. And so your governments are set up, and if you're in New York City, it's Small Business Services. If you're in New Jersey, in a city, you will likely have a similar office there in your town. Make sure that you seek those out and know what free resources are there, in addition to looking at grants and potentially bringing someone on board. If you aren't able to bring someone on full time, maybe on a contract basis, but make sure that you know what free resources are available to you that you may not already be exploring.
Wonderful. Kathleen, from your experience, what could you do to facilitate?
So if I was in need of a grant, let's say I couldn't get a loan, and the problem with that is because of taxes that weren't paid, there wasn't collateral, or they weren't watching the FICO score. A lot of people try to go to grants. But the problem is, if you don't pay your taxes, you really can't get grants either. Unless sometimes, during the pandemic, I had to find new things. And one thing I did discover, and I also want to tell the lady who's the rock star photographer, I want to give you some secrets to help you out, because you do an incredible job. And people like you need to be rewarded. Artists, musicians, writers, all these kind of people need help. So basically, you have grants.gov, which can help you in certain ways depending on who you're going for. But there is a little bit of help before you pay the big money. Some people are starting up and they can't. There's a really good service here in SBS, Small Business Services. They have a lot of these areas of departments. SCORE can also help you. They do have a grants area where they talk to you about it so you can figure out what grant it is. Because a lot of people don't understand what the grant is. They think someone's going to write it for you. That's it. You're going to get instant money. No, a lot of homework. You have to really love to write. And at the same time, you have to really love to research.
Yeah, thank you so much. In closing remarks, before I open it up to the floor, Ken, we'll start with you. What's the projection?
Well, I'll say this. Mayor Eric Adams is very bullish about getting contracts with city government agencies to those businesses that are certified as minority and women-owned business enterprises. He has done a number of things to make sure that the money that the city government doles out in contracts, tens of billions of dollars annually, is distributed to firms that are capable and to firms that represent the diversity of this great city. So he set some very ambitious goals, and he's put a framework in place to make sure that he executes them. He hired the city's first chief business diversity officer, a gentleman named Michael Garner, who came from the MTA. He was the chief diversity officer at the MTA, and implemented some real amazing programs to get contracts to minority and women-owned business enterprises. This mayor has set a goal of $25 billion in contracts to MWBEs by 2026, $60 billion by 2030. And he is putting in all of the framework to make sure that this happens. So what that means is that there is opportunity for those of you who are business owners who provide services and goods and who haven't maybe thought about doing business with the government, doing business with the city of New York. So I'd encourage you to look into the city's MWBE certification program, identify opportunities where you might be able to do your services or sell your goods to the city of New York. And that is really an opportunity for you to engage with a client that is a long-term client that will pay over time, that will allow you to scale your business up, and ultimately will allow us to see the economic benefit in our communities. So I would want to say that in terms of forecast, keep your eyes open for those opportunities. If you're in a position to get certified, and look to the city of New York, not just as a regulator, but as a client.
Thank you so much for that nuggets. And
I just want to say that I'm very appreciative to be up here to speak about small businesses and even large businesses and just what's going on in the city as a whole. Election is coming up. I wouldn't be wrong if I didn't say that. So election is coming up, October 28th, there's early voting. If anyone is in the southeast part of Queens, by Far Rockaway, Rosedale, Lawton, Edgemere, Brookville, I really want to save the small businesses in our community. Pretty soon, we won't be able to negotiate those grandfather leases. So we need to step in and make a change and get in there and try to really save, because small businesses are the backbones of our community. And we go there to get our hair products, we go there to get food, and we want to keep them alive because they keep our community going. So I just want to end with that. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Kathleen, what's your closing sentiments?
So we're here to help. If anybody's interested, they need to ask questions. You know, the SBDC, you just put it on, you would just put SBDC.org, and New York, New Jersey, wherever you want to expand. You can expand into any state you want. So basically, if you're in New York, you want to expand to Michigan. I had a client in Brooklyn. She had during the pandemic, one of the most popular services, believe it or not, that survived was a diaper service, right? Because she went around and she did by car by herself. She ended up hiring 7 people. Then she asked me how to expand into Iowa and to Utah. All I did was connect her to the next service, to the next state, to the next director, and basically that's what it was. And she had connections in those states. She had people ready to hire, and then she had different sections. She had the carrier, the delivery, and then she had the dirty person. So basically, but it was a really phenomenal idea that worked really well. So basically, if you have a team, you have someone to work with you, that really is your best bet. If you're on your own, that's okay. We're here to help you, we guide you, definitely, absolutely. Thank you for your time.
They're here to help you, they're here to, encourage you, and also there are so many opportunities out there. I'd like to thank this amazing panel for their, give them a round of applause before we take the new questions. I have 1 or 2 questions.
I want to thank you all. I don't have a question. I wanted to share I'm MWBE certified. It may not be easy to serve as a primary contractor. Try to get opportunities as a sub. And if you'd like to know about that, I'm sure Kenneth and the representative from the SBDC can tell you about that. It takes a lot to get yourself established as the primary holder of a contract. But I've been able to receive awards as an MWBE as a subcontractor.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing, Frida. Anyone else?
Hi, my question is, I have a headquarters, I left corporate about 5 years ago. My main corporate office is in New Jersey, and I have a branch office in Massachusetts. My question is, how do I take advantage of New York resources? I have a minority partner in Jamaica, and I was wondering, should I register in the state of New York or from New Jersey? I can take advantage of resources. Should I register in New York?
Who would like to answer this? Ken?
Well, you always seem to hear me say you should register your business in New York City. But it depends on where your headquarters is. If you are headquartered in New York City within the 5 boroughs and some of the
Headquartered in Northern New Jersey.
You're headquartered in Northern New Jersey.
Branch in Massachusetts and a partner in Jamaica.
Yeah. Well, I can say this, there, you know, a number of the services do not require that you provide documentation to take advantage of city government services. If you have someone who's in New York City, you can dial the SBS hotline 888-SBS, the number 4 NYC, and you can speak to a business specialist. Your partner can go to the Business Solutions Center in Queens and schedule an appointment to speak with a business consultant. These are all things that you can do, you can take advantage of without having to, to be headquartered here. I would say consider it. New York City is a great city to do business. I don't know how many people are watching the Colorado Buffaloes and Deion Sanders, but he said the other day, before they lost Oregon, he said, we're not coming, we're here. Right? New York City's economy is here. 99% of the jobs that were lost during the pandemic are back. Right? 1 in 7 of the businesses that are existing right now, the 28,700 businesses, 28,700 businesses were set up within the past year. Right? 1 out of every 7 existing businesses set up within the past year. So it's a great place to do business, and I encourage anyone who is thinking about it to set up in New York City. But I will stop my sales pitch and hand the microphone over.
Unless anybody has a question, I was going to say the lady here in front, absolutely. I'm really glad you brought that up.
One more that will wrap up.
Thank you so much. Once again, it's an honor to be here. Val Selmian, founder and CTO of Funeral, the official funeral app coming soon to iOS. This question is for Mr. Kenneth. I'm a big Blackhawks fan, by the way. I know he said it from the shot. Do you work with, this is going to be controversial, cannabis businesses? Like I've noticed there's a rumor going around, there's a lot of cannabis shops around New York City. Is that something you're proactively involved in? No, not involved per se, but do you work with potential, business owners that might want to invest in that? Thank you.
Yes. Actually, the Department of Small Business Services has the Cannabis NYC initiative. I'm not sure if you've heard of that, but if
I'm not aware of that.
You're not aware of that? If you are interested in that particular industry, let's talk. I'll give you more information. I'll connect you to my colleague who leads that initiative, which is really focused on trying to identify ways to really maximize the economic opportunity for communities that have been left behind, but also to kind of make sure that it's done in a safe and a healthy and a sound way. But I'd be happy to connect you with that initiative.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathleen, Kenneth, and Danielle, for this amazing panel. Give them a round of applause. Thank you so much. I will hand it over to Christine. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as our final panelist, final panel of the day, can you please give one more round of applause for that? Powerful sessions today. And as we transition to the closing sessions for the day, I want to kick off with first two brief presentations from our exhibitor remarks. So please, can we give a warm welcome to our first exhibitor to the stage of Creek VR, serves as an award-winning developer of premium social, virtual, and augmented reality experiences. Please welcome Austin Palmer to the stage.
Tell you about Sync.
Well, I hear that virtual reality is easy to use, which you can watch exclusive concerts by top artists.
Yo, this is Ziggy Marley. Catch my live performance on Sync.
Bon Jovi, you're watching us.
Hey, I'm Demi Lovato, and you can catch me live on Sync.
Let the music play.
Yo, so we're putting up with you guys in Chicago.
Yo, this is Ghost Love Me.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Donald Flecken.
What's up, world? My name is Siglo.
Yo, what's up, everybody? My name is Parker Slade.
Yo, you've done this, your girl Nyla Blackman.
My name is Austin, and I'm the director.
Yes. Welcome, Austin. And that he's our next keynote. Give a round of applause for Austin. Thank you so much.
Hi. So Seek extends the reach of content globally in emerging virtual reality. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. So Seek extends the reach of content globally into emerging virtual reality platforms. As you've seen, we've created experiences for global superstars, including Lady Gaga, NBA Hall of Famer Dwayne Wade, and global sporting teams such as Southampton and Ghana's Asante Kotoko. We've also worked with Google, Meta, and Apple in varying capacities, including building virtual worlds. Speaking to this, we teamed with Google for the premiere of the Mummy movie experience, and we also continue to work with Meta in porting Seek. We are a leading metaverse app on Android, iOS, and desktop, as well as tablet. And our uniqueness is the global integration with mobile money, including MTN MomoPay, Vodafone, and virtual money, enabling financial inclusion for regions that are struggling to realize monetization through direct-to-fan experiences. So in short, we bring the U.S. to the world and the world to the U.S. Various concerts, learning, sporting events, and unique immersive experiences, including TEDx from Ghana, Tanzania, Kenya, Turkey, Equatorial Guinea, Morocco, and France. We are solving unique problems to empower creators all over and are opening new lanes of opportunity for all, no matter where they are in the world. So please check us out, and thank you guys so much. Does anyone have any questions about what we can do? Yes.
What's the name of the company?
Seek VR. Yes.
So you mentioned the lanes of opportunity that you guys have. So I just wanted you to expand on what some of those lanes are.
In regards to?
In regards to the metaverse.
Absolutely. So like I said, there are regions where creators aren't able to monetize. We open that up by creating financial inclusion for those areas.
All right, another round of applause. Thank you so much. You'll be able to connect with Greek VR, Austin Palmer. I'd like to welcome to the stage our next exhibitor from Vital Audio Inc. Is he in the building? Vital Audio Inc. His services, co-founder and CEO of Vital Audio, provides cardiac monitoring and proven triage tools for optimal triage processes and telemedicine over conventional phone calls. Can we give a round of applause to our next exhibitor? For our networking. Can we get Einstein next in the session? All right. So, as you wait for our next keynote session, any questions regarding the previous exhibitor? All right, so with that said, I want to now welcome our next speaker to the stage. Please give a warm welcome and a round of applause to the chair of the Global Startup Ecosystem and chair of Diaspora Affairs at the Office of the President of Ghana, Einstein N. Tim. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much. Before I even jump into it, I want to make a slight correction. I'm chair of the Global Startup Ecosystem, but I'm the head of engagement and innovation at the Diaspora Affairs Office of the President. When it comes to government, the protocol and the titles is very, very important before I get myself in some trouble. My name is Einstein, Kofi, and Tim. As my title showcases, I have two different hats on. One is as a government representative in Ghana, where I work at the Office of the President, and I work in the Diaspora Affairs Department, which is focused on trying to get our diaspora to reconnect back to Africa, specifically Ghana, of course, as a gateway, right? And then my second hat is as the chair of the Global Startup Ecosystem. And there's a theme behind both roles I play, which is around connecting people back to our homeland and helping people prepare for the future, right? So when it comes to diaspora engagement, I mean, who's come across, who's heard about diaspora affairs at Ghana before? All right, so has anybody heard of the Year of Return? The Year of Return, yeah. So our office is the one that championed the Year of Return and other initiatives like that that's helped people to sort of engage back with the country, with the country. And when it comes to diaspora, there's three different categories of diaspora, right? We have what we call the continental diasporans, which are people like of Ghanaian descent or African descent who moved out of Africa as adults, wherever it is, to the UK, US, UAE, Canada, wherever it is, right? And within that continental diasporas, you have people like my parents, and then you have the nth generation, which are the children of my parents who grow up outside. But there's that immediate connected thread between them and the homeland of Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, wherever it is. So that's the continental diaspora. And then we have the historic diaspora, which are people of African descent whose ancestors were taken tragically away from our shores and formed new cultures and new identities, new nationalities across the Americas. So people in, of course, like in Jamaica, Haiti, Brazil. Brazil in the house. Colombia. I mean, you'd be surprised. I've traveled quite a bit. Like the amount of Afro-descended people in Venezuela and Senegal. And I say that because it's very important that we establish these, it's not differences, but these identities so we can better connect with people in a much more informed manner. Because how you engage with my parents to get them to come back to Ghana is very different than how you engage with myself or our Miss Diaspora Nigeria. Super. Yeah. USA, boom. And I love your remote, thank you. And how you engage with them is very different than how you engage people who are Black Americans, whether it's people like Denzel Washington or the everyday African American going on across the street. But we all have different ways to that appeals to us, quite different, right? But I will start by just giving a bit of background on myself. Before I jump into that, who's heard the term singularity before? Singularity, super. I won't put you on the spot and say, well, can you define it for me? Right. But my background, I'm big into technology. I actually did my master's in space technology at the University of International Space University in Strasbourg, France. Right. And in physics, we term the word singularity means the middle point of a black hole, at which point the laws of physics break apart. Right. But that term has been repurposed by people like Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis and other authorities in the tech space, and they've redefined singularity to mean that the point at which technology advances so much that the laws of our society and how things function begins to fall apart. So for example, when we have AI contact lenses in our eyes, do exams, papers make sense anymore? When we have driverless cars, do our current road tools and systems make sense anymore? Right? When you have, so these are the kind of things that we have to think about, and I say that for us to stress that these things are happening. Right? My grandma, God rest her soul, my man Tim, she passed away at 105 years old, and an incredible woman. So you can imagine, she passed away in 2011, and at the time, when my last conversation with her, she said to me, and my family called me Pa, after my granddad. It's like, oh Pa, this world that we're in is not my world anymore.
You gotta say it in the accent the way you say it, the way it's
I'll just say, when you say we are saying, meaning this world, this environment we live in it's not mine anymore. As my grandma is a titan of a woman, right? I made sure she had 12 children, raised an entire community. And when she said that to me, I put a lot of thought into it. And I could imagine her being a 10-year-old girl in the 1910s or something, right? And can you imagine the world that she was born in, and the world that she grew up in, and the world that she aged and she passed away in? In her lifespan of 100 or so years old, yeah, she got to see, and she traveled quite a bit because my family, my uncles and my pops have done quite incredible things. So she got to see different parts of the world. So she went from a world there was no airplanes to airplanes, helicopters, rockets, airplanes that go through the ocean, submarines, right? In her world, there was no television to where we got to a point where there was huge, black and white television, smart television, projected television, to just all kinds of screens all around the world. Her world, where there was no, if you think about the world war that took place and how much things have advanced and taken part. So when she said that, it makes a lot of sense that the world that she grew up in, the world she knows, is no longer her world anymore. And when I spent some time at NASA, where I met my wife, where we learned about these advanced technologies like AI, generative AI, blockchain, 3D printing, drone technology, biomechanics, quantum computing, nanotechnology, all these incredible technologies that are going to completely change the world that we live in. It's scary to think that the world that my grandma saw over 105 years old, that she could not even comprehend herself, we're going to encounter that world at 10 times that rate in the next 5 to 10 years' time. And my question to all of you is, are you prepared for it? Do you feel ready for it? And better yet, do you think our community is ready for it?
No.
Right. And for me, when I think of that, it's quite scary, tragic, but also presents an opportunity as well. Because we're in a very, very, if you've ever seen that exponential curve, where the curve that goes like this and then boom, right? We as human beings, we think very linearly. We think in this term, but most methods that governs our society is always exponential. Weirdly enough, I know everybody thinks it's special. Every generation thinks, oh, my generation is the most important generation. I think this era of human society is probably the most important era there is, because we are right at that tipping point, that precipice, where things are going to go from this to that. And I think it's incredibly scary. That's why I personally believe we're seeing such a rampant rise of mental health issues, because societally we're not prepared nor ready for that level of change. Right? And my mission and my hope is for us to recognize what's taking place. And I know that it's more important now more than ever for us as a people to become better unified. So even though we talk about historic diasporans, continental diasporans, and generation diasporans, we are all one people, but we have to recognize these differences so we can better connect with each other and understand each other's challenges, issues, mindsets, so we can build a world that's more appropriate for ourselves for the future, right? And it's a very, very sad story. When I was a child, I don't know why I ended up watching this film. There's a movie film called The Deadly Voyage. It's about these, I don't know if any of you guys have heard that film before. It's about, there's these 6 men who stole away onto a ship. And the ship had come in from, it's called the MC Ruby, had come in from New York. So they thought they were going to get on this ship, steal away onto it. It's not a person ship, it's a cargo ship, right? So they went in through the shipping, the storage aspect of things, right? Hoping that they would get on this ship and they could sneak into it, and then the ship would go to New York, and they would be able to steal themselves out of the ship and come to US and just form a new life. This is in 95, thereabouts. Unfortunately for them, across the board, the ship was a Ukrainian ship that was heading to, I think, France or wherever it is. And at the time, these are 6 men, and 2 of them were brothers, right? And when the film, I watched it in the UK growing up, and the film, I didn't even know that they were based people from Ghana, from Cape Coast of Ghana. But by then, just speaking and look, I could understand what they were trying to say in the film. And tragically, as we all see right now when it comes to the migrant crisis, we're seeing both across, people from Africa to Europe, even here in the US and the like, right? They're told, all these shipping containers were told that if for every person that you're allowed to steal away and come and land into the country, right, you pay a fine of about $100,000. So these people on the ship were just calculating in their head, like, look, we know there's people around, we've seen, what do we do? And somebody had a bright idea to end up, the best thing we can do is just kill everybody on the ship, all these stowaways, and throw them over the ocean. So systemically they went across, and it's like, it was meant to be an informative film. For me, it was like a horror movie. You know what I mean? And going through and just literally finding each person at different corners and killing everyone. But one person managed to escape because his brother sacrificed his life for him and was able to steal away into France, and it became this, he wrote a book about it, and this book became the movie, all right, that we hear about, that we know about now. And it's very, very sad, right? Because right now, this film came to mind because during at the onset of the Russian-Ukraine war that's taking place right now, at the diaspora affairs, Ghana was one of the first countries that sent our planes to go and bring our citizens especially students, to come back home. And I had parents and families putting pressure, like, look, you guys got to do more, you got to try. We went to Ukraine and we came across some Ghanaian students. And one guy was just saying, like, look, me? Go back there? Let them bomb me first. Did you know what I mean? And that shows you the state of people's mentality when it comes to the homeland. So on one aspect, we're seeing so many people, not all, but many people fighting their utmost hardest to leave the shores. And then you have our Black American brothers and sisters, the people in the Caribbean, who are trying very hard to go to the continent. Like for me, to move to Ghana was like a dream come true. That was my aim. I met my wife, I told her that, when I met my wife, I told her, like, just know that one day we're going to move back to Ghana. We're going to move, not back, we're going to move to Ghana, just so you know. So you got people who are fighting to leave, people fighting to come back. So that even, at that initial thought, you can see the conflict and why people there might have an issue towards folks in the US or the Caribbean who want to come back, and vice versa. But I say this to say that, look, at this point we have to overcome all these mental blocks. Recognize that technology is not waiting for any of us. Because if we don't fix these challenges, these mentalities and these thoughts, and prepare ourselves to better understand these realms of technologies, we are going to become completely left behind. So, in essence, if you look at your lives as individuals right now, do you have a blueprint, a plan for the next 5 to 10 years? Like, what do you have for yourself, as in your family, your life, your finances, your career? Do you have a plan for the next 5 to 10 years? And if you don't, what are you doing? And within that plan, is technology a part of that plan? Which technology? Is it AI? Is it 3D printing? Is it blockchain? Is it space? Is it drone technology? Is it quantum computing? Is it nanotechnology? So on a personal level, how are you applying this into your life? And the next, how are you applying that into your community? Right? So I say this to stress to all of us that, look, the next 5 to 10 years time, our world is going to look completely different. And I know it's very hard to see it because, we're here right now and things have changed. All we've noticed is that our smartphones have become a bit smarter. I thought I was going to get flying cars, but now my phone, I just have a touchscreen phone, right? More than that is coming right now. And I'm saying this as somebody who's been at NASA and seen what's being brewed, and now in government and seeing what's being put together, right? We have to stay prepared. And that's why the mission of GSC about trying to raise a collective consciousness about technology, innovation, and preparing the workforce for the future is so important. But I'll take that away from that systemic level to the personal side. What are you doing personally in your life, and how have you included this into your own personal journey? So I'll pause here and say, thank you all for at least showcasing that step by being in a room like this to learn about the future, to learn about technology, to learn about our role as Afro-descendant people in that future conversation. And for those who are even not part of the Afro Future community, to at least come and better understand how you can be an ally in that process. And I want to applaud all of you for being a part of this meeting, this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Einstein. I mean, the work that you've done at GSC is remarkable, and just reminding us that we can't ignore these challenges or issues and just push them under the rug. We have to be proactive. We have to educate ourselves and not live in fear. But because I feel sometimes with technology, people live in fear and they're scared of the unknown. But you know what? That's why it's important for us to participate in forums such as these, because we get to immerse ourselves in what the reality is. And I would like to, thank Einstein for his keynote. And without further ado, so welcome Christine and Tim, his dear wife. They met at NASA and they're sharing the information with us as well. And Christine is the CEO of the Global Startup Ecosystem. She's also co-founder of the Global Startup Ecosystem. Back to you, Christine. Thank you.
Before I even begin, I could see everyone's reaction when Einstein was speaking. You felt that. He spoke to your heart. Can we give another round of applause to Einstein? Because he is speaking to the true purpose of this gathering today, right? So as Einstein was sharing with you why it's important to actually make this a part of your everyday life, your plan, your future, especially what was happening in the economy right now, I want to share with you how to do that, right? He got you on the why. Are we good on that? Einstein got you on the why. I want to tell you the how, right? And I'm closing today's keynote with the digital shift, personal brand fundamentals, because every speaker today spoke to the talent and the power and the influence of Black entrepreneurs, corporate professionals, influencers in general. But for some reason, we still keep coming short on opportunity, right? And so I wanted to share with you guys in the room that when we look at what happened since the pandemic in 2020, when the world pretty much went online, right? At that point, whether you were in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, there was no age limit to the conversation of going online. You had grandparents, you had elders, everybody went virtual, and also everyone realized the importance of technology. We didn't have to debate it on that day. And I have the image of a room, a desk, because now you can reach millions, billions, just with 6 feet of space. All you need is 3 things. Wi-Fi, right? Just Wi-Fi connectivity. Second, your intellect and your passion. That's it. And you will plug in and connect with anyone in the world, right? And what does that look like? When I say personal branding and how to brand yourself for what's happening next, I tend to have people say, well, I'm not a global speaker. I'm not this. So raise your hand if you're in the room, if you're an entrepreneur. Raise your hand. Shout outs. Raise your hand if you're a blogger, an artist, influencer, corporate professional, engineer, administrative person, finance expert. I could go on and on and on, and I could outline every title in the room. I see your LinkedIn profiles, right? But the point is this conversation is very important because I think we all feel that the heartbeat of society has shifted. I see so many people now, you go to the store, it's just like the whole energy, customer service, how we engage, how we talk to each other has changed. When I see you guys talking and laughing and joking, I'm like, wow, it's been a while since people felt open enough, vulnerable enough to have very genuine and sincere conversations. We're missing out. And part of it is, obviously, there's a societal shift that's happening that Einstein just explained earlier today. But what's more pressing, too, is not only is there a societal shift happening, at the same time, there's an economic shift, and there's a cultural identity shift happening. We don't even know what we are as Americans, as Caribbeans, as Africans. The narrative of who we are is changing. So how do you bring yourself? I ask people, introduce yourself. You hear someone say, well, I'm Ghanaian, I'm British, I'm Haitian, American. You see, everyone is from multiple different vantage points, right? And so here are 3 reasons that I know this conversation is relevant for you in the room right now as we speak, right? The economy is going through a downturn. That's very evident, right? I think the mainstream media is trying to give you 2 different sides to the story, but the reality is we are going through an economic downturn right now. That is the reality of today, right? And some of you may feel like you don't feel like you're prepared. Because we've seen economic downturns in the past. We heard of the Great Depression, we heard of previous recession, but something about this one is different, right? Do you feel prepared? No. Right? Some of you said no. The second thing is, not only are we going through an economic downturn, some of you might be asking, I know I need to be relevant because it's important for career growth, but how do I even do that? Because I don't want to lose out on opportunities. Many of the speakers today talked about building connections, the domino effect of meeting one person. It doesn't have to be the most senior person in the room, but there's a domino connection effect of who you connect with and how you engage after a program, right? And then finally, once you realize, okay, I'm concerned about what's happening, how do I scale my expertise? How do I reach global audience? How do I make and touch people's lives around the world and around my community, right? And so I tell people there's a term that's circulating right now on mainstream media that we're not going through the Great Depression, we're going through the silent depression. Where people are battling struggles and challenges, but they're coming out smiling. Because what's happening now, we've created a toxic culture where if you show your vulnerability, people pounce, right? People either avoid you, they don't support you, they don't grow you, they don't feed, they don't pour into you. So you have people dealing with challenges privately. But we're social creatures. We're not built to deal with challenges privately, right? And so if you're feeling this at home, when you leave this, you're smiling, we're engaging, we're here on a Tuesday together, you're not alone. I want to let you know that, right? Because sometimes hearing that helps you get through the next day, right? You're not alone. So I want you to imagine this, right? So now that we're transitioning, we're aware of the challenges, we're aware of the current reality today, I want you to flip your thinking a little bit. I want you to imagine that you're speaking at a conference in front of 5,000 people, and the subject matter is your story and your journey. I want you to picture that right now. That you're standing on stage, and you're speaking in front of thousands of people, sharing them your challenges, your struggles, but also your successes, your journey. I want you to picture that. Second thing I want you to picture in your mind, that you just got an email from Forbes magazine, they want to interview you for the next cover shoot, featuring your journey and what you've done. The last image I want you to see is you taking a picture of you just being at home with your family, with your friends, probably cooking some dinner, and seeing that your account is giving you capital and resources without you lifting a dime. Because we also see a shift right now to people trying to find new economic opportunities for growth and development. We no longer have just a manual activation of making money. What are you using with your intellectual capacity, right? Some of you know how to work the hours. 1 hour in, 1 hour out. This is what I get. But how does 1 hour give you thousands without you having to give thousands of hours? Are you hearing me right now, right? So I just want to share with you that it's possible. And when I say mainstream society right now, I would say the difference between black communities and communities of color is that we don't recognize, we're not confident enough to brand our narratives, our journey, our influence, our products, our content. It's possible to do that, right? And so many of you, if you haven't met me before, right? Some of you have probably, if you look on my LinkedIn, on my social, you probably see that I speak at global conferences on a regular basis, right? And I will tell you, after speaking at over 100 conferences to date, I will tell you, one of the best decisions I made 7 years ago, before even starting GSC, was being confident enough to say that even if I'm not on global stage right now, I'm going to walk into a room and say that this is what I'm building matters, and that's all I need to walk forward. Right? And sometimes that means you're not just branding, oh, I work at so-and-so company. Yes, it's good to work and get experiences with other organizations, but how are you branding the work that you do today, the work that you do at home, the work that you do with family and friends? How are you branding that journey, right? And so
I would say in that journey, in that pursuit, right, I realized that as I was getting global recognition and I was featured on the Forbes list, I was getting these speaking engagements, and I'm starting to generate income virtually, right? One thing that I noticed is that when you're speaking on stage, when you're sharing your journey and narrative, obviously a lot of people overthink that process, right? So when I introduce myself, if I walk into a room, a lot of people say, okay, what do you do? What organization do you represent? I say, my name is Christina Tim. I'm a mother of 4 beautiful kids. I'm a wife to my incredible husband that you met prior to this, Einstein and Tim, right? And I'm also a serial entrepreneur, and my passion is to help other entrepreneurs accelerate their brands and businesses online. Haven't even gotten to GSC yet, haven't gotten to my accolade. I don't regurgitate my resume because my presence, my energy should tell you who the hell I am, right? And so what I'm trying to share with you today is that if there's anything that you walk away from today, look at the speakers, look at the attendees in the room, brand your journey. Put it out there and say like, look, I've done X, Y, Z, this is how I show up, this is how I act out. Tell people what you've done, not in the form like, oh, it's a checklist of the work that I've done, but like, look, this is how I'm creating an impact in the communities that matter to me. And let me tell you, our community is enough for you to become a billionaire tomorrow. I want you to get very, very clear. Because when we started GSC, I'm about to get emotional right now. Our target market wasn't mainstream audiences. We said that we're going to take this to the Caribbean, to Africa, to parts of the world, Latin America, that matter to us. And you know what people say? I remember these conversations when I was meeting people with IBM and Google. They would say like, oh, that's a small market. That's a small market. I'm looking at this person like, because you don't know, you want to tell me the size of the market that you don't even understand? How are you going to inform me of the market that I lived? So I said, thank you for your advice. Do you want to sponsor or not? That's it. Right? And so when I say confident, I know people like to say, oh, I've done it, you know, this is how I've been able to get into these doors. But my journey honestly has started very, very small. Right? I actually got into corporate, right? Because, you know, I come from a Caribbean family where you gotta go to work, okay? I don't wanna hear about all this dreams and this aspirations and business planning. I need to make sure that you can get a job and you won't come back and be a burden on your parents, right? So my parents said, go into banking. I don't know if there's any Haitians in the room. Right? Go make some money and come back and be great, right? So I did, I got into banking, but you know, when you're walking in your purpose, you know when you're not in the right place. Do you understand? You know when you're not in the right place. And I understand, like, look, I'm going to do this because you're my mom, you're my dad, I got to respect it, but I need to spread my wings and fly. And I know I'm going to go. I'm going to go where no one has been in the family. I'm going to go Dubai. Right? And I realized when you take these type of leaps, you ever have that feeling in your gut where you know you're stepping in the right space, but you're scared. You can't explain to anybody around you what you're doing because it looks crazy, but you know you're going straight. And one thing I will say is sometimes we take a step back because we feel the challenge, the scrutiny. Let me tell you something. People who love you, they're supposed to prevent you from taking too many risks because they don't want to see you fall on the other side. Because high risk, high reward, right? Right? And so I launched my startup from Dubai, and I didn't realize. Me talking about street vendors and street markets, I grew up in Haiti, my family, my mom, my grandmother, my aunties, all of them made a living just selling in the streets. So I want to digitize that economy. Little did I know, apparently, it's one of the largest global black markets in the world. Within 2 years, I not only made the Forbes list, I was kicking off my speaking career. Harvard even reached out to do a business case study where business students are studying how I built and scaled that business in emerging markets to this day, right? And so as I kept that journey, obviously, you know when you're a fanatic about a topic, right? Even if the person's not interested in what you got to talk about, they will listen and they will follow up. There's a young brother in here that kept introducing himself. Now I'm like, you know, I don't know what I needed, but I need to sign up for what he's selling, right? Because you get so proud of the journey, what you've been through, that people start to want to engage with you and they want to meet with you and they want to talk to you and they want to amplify your story, right? And so I share this journey with you guys because I think that part 2 to that is I want to tell you now the bad side of it. Because I don't think you should be afraid of failure. I think you should be afraid of success. Because one thing I would say is, we got to the other end. I've had the clout. And to this day, I just came off maternity leave. I'm back in the speaker circuit, right? So I will tell you, on the other side of success, you gotta make sure that you prioritize what you value most first, right? So if that value is having a family, if that value is moving out to the outskirts, if that value is being able to have a hobby, just playing ping pong, put that as the priority. Because the worst feeling in the world is to get everything you ever thought you wanted and be angry and sad at the same time, right? And so I share that with you guys as I think about this journey and I share with you what I've come through. I want to share with you that sometimes you get challenges to reframe your thinking. And if you're going through a challenge today, tap into that challenge to reframe your thinking, your direction today, right? Because in 2015, when my husband and I were pregnant with our first child, all of a sudden, my entire career just went down the drain. In the sense that people weren't booking me for speaking engagements, corporates didn't want to sponsor, didn't want to engage, I couldn't capital raise. What was my money stream now just went to zero. I had to start all over again from scratch. And you know when you're on a momentum, it's hard to just go to around. You ever go on speed where you're driving and you stop abruptly? That's what happened, right? But one thing I would say is that as you're taking the stepstones in your career, those challenges help you to refocus, but it also helps you to ask different questions, right? You start to ask different questions about, okay, do I want this? Do I need to do this? Am I talking to the right people? And you start to now gravitate to a new set of people. Because the people that got you to today is not going to get you to tomorrow. That's just the truth. That's the truth, right? And so I say all this to say that I had a moment to reset and to reflect. And one thing I said, wait a minute. The pattern wasn't me just accumulating awards, media, fame, and opportunity. It was me being able to confidently walk into this room and brand the journey to a point where anyone who wanted to engage with me, they knew where I came from. And they saw ahead of me where I was going. And they wanted to tap into that, right? So how many of you in the room are tapping into where you're going, where somebody in the room may see you ahead of you seeing yourself? You need to tap into that. So these are the final three questions, three lessons that I learned. First and foremost, learn your goals. Some of you think you know what you want to do, but you don't really know what you want to do. Because we're busy, we active every single day, doing the same old routine day in, day out. You got the routine down pat. So take the time, a Saturday, a Sunday, whatever, and take a time out. And sit down, what do you actually want to do? And look at your life. If you live to be 100 years old, where are you going to be at the age of 50, 60, 70, 80? Put it in your mind that you're going to live to see a century, and you got a century of work to do, right? Where do you want your goals to be? The second thing is, find out why it matters to you. I can't stress this enough. When you're building your personal brand, some of you maybe you're transitioning from one career to another. Maybe you want to start a business. Because keep in mind, when you're going through transitions in life, a lot of people still want to introduce you how you were before, not where you want to go. And because you don't have the traction of where you want to go, people are saying oh, it's okay. This is Debbie. This is what she's doing today, right? Tell them, no, this is the new title. This is the new shift. This is what I'm working on. It may not have traction today, but tomorrow, this is what I'm working on, right? That's the conversation you need to have. And the last thing is focus on the target. I will say this, and I will say this again, especially because we live now in a very narcissistic, entitled society now. It's okay to decline opportunities, decline invitations, and that is it. There's no explanation, there's no, conversation, no. Just say no, I appreciate it, and keep it moving. You guys are laughing because I know you've been in rooms where you're having conversations and people want to tell you off for saying no, right? It's okay to be clear, look, all I got for you is a no, maybe not right now, but that's it. And the person will wait, and it'll be awkward silence. It's okay. All right? So, with that said, I want to conclude by saying, you need a plan. And the plan I'm talking about is not the typical type of plan that we hear about. The plan is your personal brand plan. How do you want to brand yourself today? How do you walk into rooms? How do you introduce yourself? Second, how do you introduce the work that you do? Not by title, but by success, right? Like, I empower these communities by doing X, Y, Z. And the third thing is, what's your roadmap? You know how every corporation, Fortune 500, they can tell you 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road? How many of you can tell us what you're going to do a year past today? 5 years past today. 10 years past today. 20 years past today. The hands are starting to go slow. Right? The point is, you need a plan and you need to articulate that plan, because what's happening next right now, see this screen? It's coming. I don't care what anybody's saying on Main Street in America, we're about to hit something real right now, right? Since when do you see that they're saying that we have a shortage of workers, but at the same time, people are looking for jobs? Since when do you walk into stores and everything is out of stock? Since when did our supply chains break to that point? And to the point of earlier today, now you're seeing the shift where everyone's trying to rotate like, yo, I need to get out of here, right? This is real and it's happening, right? And so prepare your families and capitalize on this. So how you can capitalize on this is, first and foremost, leverage technology, go online. I don't care if you start by doing a webinar a week, a webinar a month, right? Get your name out there and be virtual. Because one thing I would say, even if you don't do things well, the practice and the iterations helps you to find the kinks. So when you get to that precipice, remember that exponential curve we talked about earlier? One day everything just clicks out of nowhere. And if you stop right before that precipice, it will be all for nothing, right? So don't do things for the likes, do things for the progress. Because you know how on Instagram where you can post something on Reels, you have so many people watching it, but if you post something no one likes, people are watching. Even if they're not engaging with you, keep going. That's one. The second way you can capitalize on change is know that the majority of people, they do the research. A lot of you don't burn yourself properly online. Like I said, I looked up many of your profiles on LinkedIn, on social media, you guys registered. And I will tell you, some of the things I'm finding, if there's any homework I have to give you today, go back, fix that LinkedIn profile, make sure the first thing that comes on Google that you see is something that you're proud of. Because people are doing the research on you before they work with you, engage with you, and talk to you. Make sure you clean that up. And last but not least, right now we live in an influencer economy, which means people are paying to learn from individuals over institutions, right? Which means something in your journey is teachable. Capitalize on sharing that journey and monetizing that journey. Because someone out there wants to learn from you, wants to capitalize and grow with your journey. Give them that. Give the world what you've been waiting for. Give them you and your journey, your knowledge, your expertise. I can't tell you enough. Not enough of us do that. So with that, I want to close and say thank you so much. I do wish you guys the very best. And as you leave today, I hope when you have the conversations about Afro Future Summit, the experience that you had today, that you don't forget to share with them what you learned, what you've seen, and what you're going to take action on after this. Thank you so much, everybody. I want to welcome to the stage all the VIPs, exhibitors. I want to show you who made this happen. And this is a kind of like a tradition for all GSC programs. I want to show you the faces behind what's made this possible. So can I get our speakers, can we give them a round of applause? Our speakers come to the stage, our exhibitors, and our VIPs, and then our staff, our volunteers. Can you please come to the stage? Can we call them from outside to come in? Because I want to put a face behind how this thing happens. Where's the photographer as well for him to come? When you're seeing initiatives and programs, there's a multitude of people that's making it happen, right? And a lot of times we only see the founder, the organizer, but I want you to see everyone here. Can we give a final round of applause to our ecosystem that made today happen? From ONEM, Echo, Einstein, and there's another group of people that you guys don't see right now. They're virtually online. Can we give a huge shout out to the Ghana team, Letitia, Stan, Kelly, Nee, right? Kobana, Oscar, all of them are online. So thank you so much. And congratulations for you being part of the Afro Future Summit 3rd Annual Edition. Thank you so much, everybody. So now that we close, let's get some music pumping. Let's eat some food. Let's network, and let's be a family. Thank you so much, guys. Till next year. You want to take a group photo? All right. Does everyone want to get into a group selfie? Yes.